Balance is a blessing, and excess is a disaster. People with hot tempers burn bright like fire, quickly igniting anything flammable. Those who are emotionally cold and harsh can be as unfeeling and harsh as ice, mercilessly destroying things in their path. Rigid and stubborn people are like stagnant water or decaying wood, devoid of life. These individuals often struggle to build a successful life or spread happiness. Two of Confucius's disciples, Zheng Shen and Zai Yu, were highly respected, sometimes even by Confucius himself, who couldn't decide which one he admired more. One day, Zai Yu asked Confucius, "Who is better, Zheng Shen or me?" Confucius replied, "Zheng Shen tends to overdo things, while you often don't meet the required standards or do enough." Zai Yu then asked, "So, Zheng Shen is better?" Confucius said, "Going overboard is just as bad as not doing enough. The best approach is to find the right balance and achieve beneficial results." This is often seen in life. In fact, the deep mystery of life can often be summed up in one word: moderation. 2. Wisdom and compassion. How Enzai calmed an angry king. King Kang Kong was furious when he discovered his beloved horse had died, and he was about to punish the horse's caretaker without thinking about justice or the law. Yet, Enzai was able to stop him by appealing to the king's sense of compassion, cleverly suggesting that the caretaker be held accountable while actually reminding the king of his humanity. This led King Kang Kong to reconsider and feel remorse. And Zi's calm and gentle words transformed the king's wrath. King Kong Tong of the Qi state also had a prized horse, which died suddenly. The king, in his anger, ordered the horse's caretaker to be killed. Seeing this, Anzi intervened, asking the king, "How did ancient kings like Yao and Shun begin their executions?" Confused, King Kang Kong decided to imprison the caretaker instead of immediately executing him. And Zi argued that the caretaker should not be punished without a clear understanding of his guilt, suggesting that it might be unjust. The king agreed. And Zai then outlined the caretaker's faults, saying, "You are guilty of 3 grave offenses. First, you were tasked with the care of the horse and it died under your watch. Second, the death of a horse so valued by the king is a severe failure. Third, this incident has damaged the king's reputation, causing people to resent him and other states to look down on him. Now, you will be temporarily imprisoned." Upon hearing this, King Kang Kong, moved by Anzi's words, pardoned the caretaker, saying, "Let him go, let him go. I don't want to be seen as heartless." In summary, King Kang Kong's initial impulse to punish the horse's caretaker in his grief was tempered by Anzi's intervention, which not only addressed the caretaker's faults, but also appealed to the king's better nature, ultimately leading to a decision of mercy. And Zai's soft-spoken and thoughtful approach effectively changed the king's mind. 3. Haste makes waste. Calmness brings happiness. People who are hot-tempered and rush things often fail to accomplish anything. Those who are calm and gentle usually find happiness coming their way. In 260 BC, the state of Qin attacked the state of Zhao, and the Zhao general Zhao Kuo led the troops, choosing to directly confront the Qin army. The Qin general Bai Qi intentionally let Zhao Kuo taste some initial successes, allowing the Zhao forces to win a few minor battles. Pleased with himself and overconfident, Zhao Kuo led his large army of 400,000 soldiers to decisively battle the Qin forces, who pretended to lose in several encounters. Zhao Kuo, impatient and overly proud, didn't realize he was falling into an enemy trap. He led his forces in pursuit of the retreating Qin troops right up to the Qin camp. At this moment, he suddenly heard that his rear camps had been overrun by Qin forces and his supply lines cut off. The Qin army had surrounded all of Zhao's forces. Inside, there were no supplies, and outside, there was no reinforcement. After holding out for over 40 days, the soldiers cried out in misery, no longer having the will to fight. Zhao Kuo attempted to break out of the encirclement, but the Qin forces, lying in ambush with thousands of arrows, shot and killed them all. Upon hearing of their general's death, Zhao's troops threw down their weapons and surrendered. 4. When going out white, returning black. One sunny day, Mr. Yang went out for a stroll. Initially, he wore a white shirt. However, halfway through his walk, it began to rain heavily, soaking his clothes. He took shelter in a relative's house where they lent him a dark-colored jacket to wear. When the rain stopped, Mr. Yang donned the dark jacket and headed home. His dog, not recognizing him in the dark clothing, started barking and chasing him. Upset, Mr. Yang was about to scold the dog when his brother, Yang Chu, intervened. "Don't be angry at the dog," he said. "It's only natural for the dog to act this way. Imagine if our white dog left and came back black, wouldn't you be surprised too?" Moral of the story: when Mr. Yang went out in white and came back in a dark jacket, even he didn't realize how much he had changed. The dog, seeing something different, reacted defensively. To scold the dog would have been a mistake, as the fault was Mr. Yang's change, not the dog's reaction. Similarly, in life, when we do something unusual and others don't recognize it, they are bound to react. If we only blame others for their responses without assessing our own changes, we are no better than Mr. Yang ready to scold his dog in this story. About the source. This story is from the Liezi, a text attributed to the teachings of Li Yuku, which is comprised of 8 sections. During the Tang and Song dynasties, it was known as True Scripture of Emptiness and Nothingness, or the True Scripture of Pervading Virtue. 5. Rushing leads to damage and harshness breeds resentment. Some things can't be fully grasped or understood in a short time. By giving it a bit more time, understanding will naturally come. Avoid rushing and getting angry to prevent increasing tension. When teaching others, if they don't immediately follow, gradually relax the pressure and they will naturally be influenced. Don't hastily force them to avoid increasing resistance. In the era of Western Wei, the second son of the governor of Liangzhou, Do Huaidao, was Do Sun Tung, who became the governor of Xijingzhou. He was stubborn and suspicious by nature. Du Sun Tung had just taken a beautiful concubine whom he adored. One day, this concubine received a letter from her father saying, "Recently, life has been very tough and I need your help." While she was leaning on the door reading the letter, Du Sun Tung came in unexpectedly. Embarrassed and not wanting her husband to know about her father's troubles, she put the letter in her mouth and swallowed it. Misunderstanding the situation and thinking it was a lover's letter, Du Sun Tung ordered his servants to cut open his wife's stomach to retrieve the letter. Before she could even die, the letter was removed. After reading it, Du Sun Tung lamented, "I should not have let myself get so upset. How can I last long doing things this way?" Overwhelmed with grief, he died that night. 6. The unreasonable complaint. In the state of Song, there was a man who lost his dark-colored jacket. He went out into the street to look for it. When he saw a woman wearing a dark jacket, he stopped her and demanded, "I just lost my dark jacket and you need to give me that one." He then grabbed onto the jacket and refused to let go. The woman protested, "You lost your jacket, but how does that involve me? This jacket I'm wearing is mine and I made it myself." The man insisted, "You have to compensate me with your jacket. My lost jacket was thick and the one you're wearing is thin. Giving me your thin jacket to replace my thick one should settle the matter." Commentary. It's laughable to think that someone would try to find a lost item in the street. It's even more absurd that a man would demand a woman's jacket as a replacement for his own. To claim a thin jacket as compensation for a lost thick one is utterly unreasonable. Oh, how greed blinds us. It makes people only consider their own benefit, ignoring what's right or wrong. Those who are so driven by self-interest wouldn't hesitate to say or do just about anything. Alas, in this money-driven world, there are many who would make unreasonable demands just like the man in this story.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
7. A story of forgiveness and understanding. The wisdom of scholar Laka. 1. Don't chase robbers on the road and keep an eye on your containers when throwing out mice. To completely eliminate evil and deceitful people, give them a chance to repent and change their lives. If they are cornered, it's like blocking all the exits in a mouse hole. They'll fight back and could destroy all that is good. 2. Scholar Laka from the Song dynasty was known for his tolerance and profound knowledge. After passing high in the civil service examination, he was appointed to an official position but was later dismissed. From then on, he renounced officialdom and was regarded as a mentor by the local people. One day, someone was caught stealing vegetables from his garden. Laka quietly hid in the bushes and only came out after the thief had left. On another occasion, when someone stole a chicken from his house, Laka brought a jar of wine to the thief's house. The chicken thief felt extremely ashamed. Laka, holding the thief's hand, said, "I am lucky to be from the same place as you, and since I can't cook chicken, I've brought wine to share with you. I feel embarrassed." They ended up drinking the wine and eating the chicken together until they were drunk, and Laka went home without telling anyone about it. After that, no one else stole from his house. 8. A daylight thief's justification, greed and morality at the market. One day, a greedy man named Tan went to the market and took whatever he saw, claiming, "I can eat this, I can wear this, I can spend this, I can use this," and walked away with it. When people demanded payment, he said, "Greed blinded me. I thought everything at the market was mine and I couldn't see anyone else. Just let me take these now, and when I'm rich, I'll pay you all back." The market supervisor, tired of his antics, gave him a few lashes and made him return the items to their rightful owners, which made everyone laugh. Tan retorted, "There are many more greedy people in the world who stealthily steal using clever tricks. At least I steal openly in daylight. How am I worse than them? You laugh at me because you haven't thought it through." Commentary. People blinded by greed and who forsake morality are despicable, whether their acts are big or small. However, those who deceive and betray for wealth, causing hidden harm, are far worse than those who commit petty thefts in broad daylight to survive. Yet, society only mocks the petty thieves and fails to punish the truly wicked and corrupt. 9. Understand deeply to shoulder great responsibilities. Considering how the world's affairs are illusory and constantly changing, it's clear that not only fame and wealth are illusions, but even our physical bodies and senses are gifts from the heavens. From the perspective of transcending everything in the objective world, don't just think about family or siblings. Even all things and beings are one with ourselves. Thus, one must see clearly and understand deeply in order to take on the world's responsibilities and free oneself from the shackles of fame and profit. In the state of Qi, there was a man named Lu Ku Kung who was just 18 years old. One day he stopped the carriage of King Tuyen of Qi and presented himself, saying, "My family is poor and I have an elderly mother. Please let me serve in a small official position." The king replied, "You are too young to hold office." Lu Kung responded, "That's not correct, for Chu Yen Hook was only 12 years old when he ruled the empire, and Hang Thak was only 7 when he became a teacher of saints. Therefore, you should say I lack the ability, not the age for service." The king said, "I have never seen a young horse carry a heavy load. Likewise, a person must be mature to be given important responsibilities by the country." Lu Kung countered, "That's incorrect, as every inch can be long and every ruler can have it short. Horses like Hoa, Lu, Qi, Duke, the finest in the world racing with a squirrel in the kitchen, may not be faster than the squirrel. A swan or a crane might fly thousands of miles at a stretch, but racing with a swallow or a bat inside a house, they may not be more agile than the swallow or the bat. What difference, then, does age make in people?" The king remarked, "Well said, why didn't you come to me sooner?" Then he invited him into his carriage, returned to court together, and appointed him to an official position. 10. Remember the old. One day Confucius was walking in a field when he saw a woman crying by a pond. He found it strange and asked his disciple to find out why she was crying. The woman said, "I was cutting reeds and lost my reed hairpin, and that's why I'm crying." Confucius asked her, "You were just cutting reeds and lost a reed pin, so why cry over it?" The woman replied, "It's not because I lost the reed pin that I'm crying. I'm crying because I miss an old, familiar item that I can no longer find." Commentary. Anything that becomes ours, that we come to love, if lost, even if replaced by something similar or better, can never quite be loved the same. Often, seeing something new reminds us of the old and we feel a pang of nostalgia. Why is this? Because the things we lose are not just valuable in themselves. They seem to hold a part of our soul or the soul of the person who gave them to us. The first attachment is always the most profound and lasting. Just as a fox, 3 years dead, still faces the mountain it came from, humans, no matter how scattered or disheveled, can never quite forget their origins. The northern horses neigh at the northern wind. The southern birds will not nest until they reach the southern branches. Just like these animals, humans too cannot forget their roots. 11. To lead a fulfilled life, a wise person must be cautious. The illnesses that afflict people in old age are often the result of carelessness in youth. Accepting blame gracefully when one is at fault can stem from issues that were ignored during times of success. Therefore, when successful and satisfied, a truly wise person must always remain vigilant. During the Warring States period, King Zhuang of Chu hosted a banquet to entertain his ministers and warriors with wine. During the feast, he asked his favored concubines to serve the wine. At this moment, a guest took advantage of the darkness to harass a beautiful woman, who then tearfully complained to King Zhuang. The king consoled her, saying, "Drunken rudeness is hard to avoid, and I cannot disgrace my ministers and warriors over one beautiful lady." Thus, he did not pursue the matter further. 3 years later, during a battle between the states of Jin and Chu, a brave and skilled warrior charged forward repeatedly, leading the charge each time and becoming the first to defeat the enemy. Chu won a significant victory. King Zhuang was surprised and asked the warrior why he had risked his life so boldly. The warrior replied, "I am the man who, drunk at that feast years ago, acted inappropriately towards the lady. Not only did you spare me from punishment, but you also forgave my misconduct. I have always wanted to find a way to repay your kindness." By protecting this warrior during his moment of triumph, King Zhuang inadvertently ensured that 3 years later, when Jin and Chu went to war, this grateful warrior would repay the favor by bravely defending his country. 12. Mencius and the duty of righteousness in times of moral decline. When Mencius was traveling from the state of Lu to the state of Qi, he stopped by the house of an old friend. While there, his friend said to him, "These days, who really cares about doing the right thing? You're just making life hard for yourself by sticking to your principles. Isn't it better to just give up?" Mencius replied, "Imagine a family with 10 children where only one child works the fields while the others do nothing. Shouldn't that one child work even harder? Why? Because there are many who do nothing and few who work. Now, when no one wants to do the right thing, you should be encouraging me to do even more, not stopping me." Commentary. In times when human decency and moral standards are declining, those who can still uphold these values should not succumb to the decay. If everyone gave up, who would be there to guide and awaken those lost in ignorance? That's why those who are aware of the times, despite the chaos, will not indulge in wrongdoing. Like pine and cypress trees that remain green amidst the frost and snow of winter, or like a rooster that crows even during a stormy night, these individuals not only endure, but also devote their energy and intellect to guiding others. Like Mencius, seeing his duty in promoting righteousness even in corrupt times is truly a service to humanity. 13. Being frugal and honest, clumsy, yet sincere. People who live extravagantly will never feel they have enough, even with more wealth. They can't compare to those who, despite being poor, live comfortably by being frugal. Someone who works hard but causes resentment isn't as good as those who might be clumsy and unskilled but maintain their genuine and straightforward nature. Empress Zhongsun, the wife of Emperor Taizong of Tong, held a high position but was never pretentious or flamboyant. She was known for her lifelong frugality, leaving behind a good reputation. When Empress Zhongsun fell gravely ill, Emperor Taizong planned a grand burial for her. Upon hearing this, the empress said, "In life, I made no significant contributions to the country, so in death, I should not have a lavish burial." Throughout history, the wise have always advocated for frugality. Only those who do not understand moral values build elaborate tombs for themselves. Although they may seek to be remembered forever, in reality they go against their wishes and either become a laughingstock or leave a tarnished legacy. I believe that only by embracing frugality can one truly leave a lasting legacy. Please respect my wishes in this matter. 14. How to behave in life. Teacher Nan Uyen asked Confucius, "Nowadays, can one be poor yet live like the rich, be humble yet appear distinguished, lack strength yet command respect, and mingle with others all life without fear? Is it appropriate to want this?" Confucius replied, "Your question is profound. To be poor but live as if rich shows contentment with one's lot without coveting more. To be humble yet wish to appear distinguished shows humility and respectfulness. To lack strength yet desire respect indicates caution and reverence without fault. To mingle freely yet live without fear means to choose words carefully before speaking." Commentary. Not seeking fame or fortune shows a preference for heavenly over human mandates, ensuring no one can look down upon you, thus valuing one's dignity. Not wanting to carry worries shows a preference to live untroubled and not bother others. To maintain these qualities in life truly reflects a most noble kind of joy. 15. Do not instantly hate the wicked or hastily befriend the good. When you encounter someone evil, don't immediately feel hatred. Carefully consider if someone might be falsely accusing them out of revenge. Similarly, when you come across a good person, don't rush to trust and befriend them. Be cautious of deceitful individuals who might use manipulation for personal gain. During the Warring States period, A high official from the state of Chu named Ku Yuan was exiled to the Mi River. One day, he saw a farmer arguing with an ox. He laughed and advised, "This ox is stubborn, and so is the man for arguing with it. The ox's stubbornness can't be changed, but the man, being smarter, shouldn't be stubborn." To his surprise, the farmer laughed loudly and said, "Exactly. Being in power like the official Zilan makes one as stubborn and foolish as this ox. Why should you compete with them? In the end, it only brought you suffering here at the Mi River." Ku Yuan responded seriously, "How can this be the same? If I didn't stand up to the scoundrel Zilan and ignored their actions, only colluding with them for personal advancement, then what kind of person would I be?" 16. Self-improvement. When you see someone doing something well, try to learn from them. When you see someone performing poorly, check if you have the same flaws and work on fixing them. If you have good qualities, make an effort to maintain them. If you have bad ones, strive to eliminate them. People who criticize you correctly are your mentors. Those who praise you appropriately are your friends. But those who flatter you deceitfully are actually your enemies. Therefore, a person of integrity values mentors, cherishes friends, and detests enemies. They appreciate correctness and are open to advice, knowing it helps them improve. Such a person cannot help but become better. On the other hand, a petty person is not like this. They do terrible things yet hate being criticized. They perform poorly but enjoy being praised. Their mindset is predatory, their behavior beast-like, and they are displeased when not respected. They prefer flatterers and avoid those who offer genuine advice, mock the upright, and scorn the trustworthy. With such attitudes, they cannot avoid being poor in character. Reflection. The essence of self-improvement lies in embracing good qualities and avoiding bad ones. Achieving this goal requires not only self-evaluation, but also considering how others interact with you. It's essential to respect and learn from those who rightly criticize and advise you, and to distance yourself from those who merely flatter. Prefer those who advise you over those who praise you is the way to truly improve yourself. 17. The virtuous live at ease, while the wicked are fiercely brutal. People with good hearts are calm in their words and actions, showing gentleness and tranquility even in their dreams. In contrast, those with malicious intentions exhibit cunning and brutal behaviors, hiding cruelty even during moments of laughter and joy. In the late Shang dynasty, the tyrannical and decadent King Zhou caused widespread resentment among the people. Seizing this opportunity, the neighboring state of Zhou grew stronger. During this time, King Wen of Zhou, supported by the brilliant military strategist Zhang Ziya, eventually overthrew the Shang dynasty and established the Western Zhou dynasty. Zhang Ziya, skilled in both literature and military strategy, laid the foundation for ancient Chinese military theory. Legend has it that he and his fellow disciple Shen Gongbao were each given a book of heaven to explore during their studies at Mount Kunlun. While Jiang Ziya saw peaceful and serene landscapes in his book, Shen Gongbao saw scenes of violence and bloodshed, rivers of blood, and an overwhelming presence of death. Their master explained that Jiang's peaceful visions reflected his virtuous soul, whereas Shen's visions of death indicated his corrupt nature. True to this, Zhang Ziya helped King Wu of Zhou overthrow the wicked King Zhu, liberating the people from misery, while Shen Gongbao assisted King Zhu in his cruel and defiant acts, causing much wrongdoing. 18. Waiting for another rabbit. A man from the Song dynasty was plowing his field when a rabbit suddenly ran into a tree trunk and died. Seeing this, the farmer abandoned his plow, ran over and grabbed the rabbit. Then, he sat down and clung to the tree trunk, hoping another rabbit would do the same. But no more rabbits came, and he wasted his time instead of plowing. People who saw this laughed at him. Moral of the story: it's unwise to rely on random luck as if it were a regular occurrence. Those who encounter fortune by chance and then expect it to happen regularly fail to understand that luck is just that, chance. Like the farmer waiting for another rabbit, they are stubborn and don't grasp the situation, holding on to what once was, much like those who fix their instruments rigidly or mark the boat to remember where a sword fell.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
19. Wisdom and Revelry, a tale of understanding and tradition from the Song dynasty. Judging people based on unusual appearances is a sign of ignorance, and those who act alone won't last long. Eccentric individuals, with their strange behaviors unlike the majority, often lack profound knowledge and excellence. People who solely focus on maintaining their personal reputation and insist on working alone also cannot sustain virtue for long. Tong Xiao was a prime minister during the Song dynasty. Once, during the Lantern Festival night, he was reading the I Ching in his study when he suddenly heard his brother and fellow scholar, Tong Kai, singing and enjoying a feast throughout the night. The next day, Tong Xiao sent a trusted aide to scold Tong Kai, saying, "The Prime Minister asked me to tell you that burning the midnight oil with such extravagant festivities last night was excessively wasteful. Do you still remember the Lantern Festival years ago when we were at Mo Chao School, cooking rice and eating simple vegetables?" Tong Ki responded with a laugh, "Please tell the Prime Minister, what was the reason we ate simple meals at Mo Chao School back then?" After hearing this, Tong Xiao sighed deeply and said, "Poor understanding of what's different and unusual behavior won't last long, just as the ancients rightly said." 20. Marking the boat to retrieve the sword. A man from the state of Chu was crossing a river by boat. While sitting in the boat, he accidentally dropped his sword into the river. In a hurry, he marked the side of the boat, saying, "My sword fell right here." When the boat reached the dock, he went straight to the marked spot and dived into the water to look for his sword. However, the boat had moved to the dock, but the sword had fallen and remained at the original spot in the river. How could the sword move along with the boat? Looking for the sword in this way, wasn't he being very foolish? Commentary. When the sword fell into the river, it stayed right where it fell. If one wishes to find the sword, one must dive directly into the water at that spot. Why mark the boat and wait until reaching the dock to dive in and look? Isn't this like someone who, thinking a horse won't move once tethered, expects that everything will naturally stay in place? Alas, such stubborn ignorance, holding firmly to something grasped without understanding the meaning of timing. 21. Keep your words private and your thoughts guarded. The mouth is the gatekeeper of the mind. If you can't control what you say, you might reveal many secrets. Thoughts are the legs of the mind. If you don't vigilantly guard them, they could lead you down a wrongful path. One of Confucius's students, Zi Lu, asked him, "Is it proper for a high official in Lu to sleep on a bed during the 27-month mourning period after his parents' death?" Confucius replied, "I don't know." Zi Lu went and told another student, Zi Gong, "I think our teacher doesn't know everything. There are still some rites he's unaware of." Zi Gong said, "I'll ask him for you." After asking Confucius, "Is sleeping on a bed during mourning considered proper?" Confucius answered, "It is not proper." Zi Gong relayed this to Zi Lu, saying, "Why did you think the teacher was uninformed? He is very knowledgeable. It was just your question that was misplaced." According to our traditions, when living with a high official, it's not our place to judge whether what they do is right or wrong. We need to strictly guard our thoughts and keep our words to ourselves. Our teacher does not want to betray the proprieties over such matters. 22. The Tale of Three Fleas. Three fleas were feasting on a pig and began arguing over the best spot to feed. Another flea came along and asked, "What are you three arguing about?" They replied, "We're fighting over a prime feeding spot." The new flea advised, "You shouldn't be fighting among yourselves. You should worry more about the butcher's knife and the fire used to singe the pig." Realizing their folly, the three fleas stopped their dispute, decided to stick together through thick and thin, and never abandoned each other. Despite the pig getting thinner every day, it wasn't slaughtered and kept on feeding the fleas abundantly. Moral of the story: when people fight among themselves for short-term gains without thinking of the long-term welfare of the community, they are no wiser than the fleas in this tale. Fighting, arguing, and suing each other leads to mutual destruction, benefiting no one and harming everyone. Just as worms perish when the tree they infest falls, so too do creatures that harm their host eventually meet their own demise. 23. Understanding right and wrong and moral awareness are important. One should not let skepticism from others affect their sharp judgments, should not stubbornly hold on to their views while dismissing others, should not pursue minor personal gains at the expense of the common good, and should not use public opinion to satisfy personal desires. During the spring and autumn period, Qi Jinggong and the wife of his minister Kui Ju had an affair, leading Kui Ju to kill Qi Jinggong. Another minister, Yanzi, upon hearing that the king was murdered, wanted to express his condolences despite others' fear. When Yanzi arrived at Kui Ju's home, Kui Ju's associates questioned him. "Are you here to die for him, or to flee the state of Qi?" Yanzi replied, "One should understand the bigger picture and discern right from wrong. If the king dies for his country, his subjects should be willing to die for him. If he flees for his country, his subjects should flee with him. But if the king dies or flees for personal desires, who would follow him?" After speaking, Yanzi boldly entered Kuiju's house, removed his cap, stamped his feet, pounded his chest, ignoring the other bodies lying over Qi Jinggong, cried out in anguish, and then left. 24. Striving to do the right thing. In ancient China, there lived a man in the state of Lu who resided alone. His neighbor, a young widow, also lived alone. One stormy night, her house collapsed, and she sought shelter at her neighbor's house. However, the neighbor refused to let her in. Standing outside his window, she exclaimed, "How can you be so heartless, refusing to let me in?" The man replied, "I have heard that only men and women over 60 can live together. Since we are both young, it wouldn't be appropriate for me to let you stay." The woman questioned, "Why can't you be like Master Liu, who could hold his daughter in his arms without causing any scandal?" He responded, "Master Liu could do that, but I am not him. If I cannot ensure our interaction is as scandal-free as his, it's better not to let you in at all." Hearing of this, Confucius commented, "Very good. This man wanted to do the right thing without merely copying others' actions, and he succeeded. That's true wisdom." Commentary. This story highlights a truly awkward dilemma. On a stormy night, should a young man offer shelter to a young woman? Denying her shelter might seem heartless as it fails to help someone in distress. However, offering shelter could be perceived as improper and lead to rumors of an immoral relationship. In such a situation, it's challenging to uphold both kindness and propriety. The man chose to maintain propriety, echoing the Eastern ideal of strict boundaries between men and women. This tale illustrates the complexities of striving to do what is right without compromise. 25. The enduring legacy of virtue. Over fame, lessons from Zhang Heng. Career success is fleeting, but virtue lasts forever. While careers and literary achievements may fade after a person passes away, a resilient spirit can endure forever. Fame, fortune, and wealth may change with the times, but only noble virtues are truly eternal. A true gentleman with high moral standards and education will never sacrifice lasting virtue for temporary career gains. Han Dynasty astronomer Zhang Heng often taught his students by engaging in discussions with them. One day, a student asked him, "Teacher, you always tell us that having a purpose is the motivation for life, and everyone has their own purpose. What should our purpose be?" Zhang Heng replied, "High moral standards and clear wisdom." The students asked for more details, and Zhang Heng explained, "A gentleman shouldn't worry about not being honored, but should worry about not being virtuous. It's not a disgrace to have little, but it is shameful to lack depth in knowledge and wisdom. Only those who are disciplined and dedicated to learning and improving without being swayed by fame or material gain can truly manage a country and accomplish great things." Because of Zhang Heng's noble character, he became a renowned and highly respected intellectual and leader. 26. Love and hate. How our feelings color our judgment. When you like someone, you tend to see them in a positive light, and when you dislike someone, you tend to see them negatively. For example, if you like lemons, you might say they're sweet, but if you dislike roses, you might say they're sour. This bias can also influence how you treat people, being very generous when you like them and quite the opposite when you don't. There's a saying, "When in love, a bitter melon is split into 3, but when in hate, it's chopped into 10. There's a historical example involving King Wei and his subject, Dizixia. Dizixia was deeply loved by the king at first. One time, Dizixia took the king's chariot without permission to visit his sick mother. Instead of punishing him, the king praised his filial piety. Another time, Dizixia shared a delicious peach with the king, who again admired his thoughtfulness. However, when the king's feelings changed, he viewed these same actions negatively. A minor mistake by Dizixia led the king to harshly punish him for past deeds that were previously forgiven or praised. This illustrates how love and hate can drastically alter one's judgment. When we love or hate someone, it can cloud our perception and obscure the true value of their actions. It's crucial to strive for fairness and recognize both the good and bad in someone, regardless of our personal feelings. This way, our decisions and actions toward them can be more balanced and just. 27. Embracing the present without holding on to the past. When the wind sweeps through a sparse bamboo forest, it creates rustling sounds, but once the wind passes, the forest returns to silence, leaving no trace of the noise. Similarly, when a swallow flies over a still pond, its reflection appears on the water. Yet once the bird is gone, the water remains undisturbed, showing no sign of the swallow's image. In this way, a person of virtue carries out their actions with sincerity, but returns to a state of calm once the action is completed. During the era of the Three Kingdoms, the king of the Shu state, Liu Bei, led a great army to attack the eastern Wu. The eastern Wu's king, Sun Quan, appointed Lu Xun as the chief commander, who led 50,000 troops to resist. Believing that Liu Bei's forces were newly arrived and full of vigor, Lu Xun decided to avoid immediate conflict, understanding that the enemy's morale would naturally decline if not engaged quickly. However, his subordinates misunderstood his intentions, thinking he was too fearful to fight due to the strength of the opposing force. This caused dissatisfaction and resentment among them, as they relied on their superior military strength and wished to ignore his orders. Holding his sword, Lu Xun declared, "Although I am a scholar, I accept the duty entrusted by our king. You must follow my command because I have the strategy and just cause to endure humiliation and hardship. Those responsible for defending our land must not act recklessly. Military law is impartial and must not be violated. Speaking with both gentleness and firm resolve, Lu Xun earned the deep respect of his soldiers and commanders, who thereafter dared not disobey him. Later, Lu Xun cleverly employed a strategy of fire to defeat Liu Bei's army. 28. The loyalty of a devoted wife. Thinking he was near death and seeing his young wife, a man didn't want to leave her to live alone. He loved her very much and cared deeply for her. The wife, fearing that her husband would regret leaving her if he died, gouged out one of her eyes to show her commitment and reassure him. This act proved her deep love and loyalty to her husband. Mrs. Lu, the wife of Mr. Fong Huyen Lin, was an exceptionally beautiful and virtuous woman. When Mr. Lin was young, he was very poor. Once, when he fell seriously ill and thought he was dying, he told Mrs. Lu, "I am gravely ill and you are still young. You shouldn't stay alone. Find a way to live well with another husband after I'm gone." Mrs. Lu cried upon hearing this and then went behind a curtain to gouge out one of her eyes, indicating to her husband that even if he died, she would not remarry. Soon after, Mr. Lin recovered from his illness. He later passed his exams and rose to a high government position. Mr. Lin loved and respected Mrs. Lu immensely and did not take any concubines. People thought this was because he was afraid of Mrs. Lu's jealousy. Even the emperor, wanting to test Mrs. Lu, one day asked her, "It is common for high-ranking officials to have concubines. Our official here is getting old and I want to give him a beautiful woman." Mrs. Lu firmly refused. Angered, the emperor scolded, "If you are not jealous, you live. If you are jealous, you die," and then ordered someone to bring a cup of wine, pretending it was poison, and told her, "Then you must drink this poison." Without hesitation, Mrs. Lu took the cup and drank it all at once. Seeing this, the emperor said, "I must be cautious, as must Huyen Lin." 29. Embracing fate, wisdom from the stream. Everything happens for a reason, let it be as it may. Buddhism emphasizes going with the flow and respecting natural causes, while Confucianism focuses on fulfilling one's duties. The phrase, "let things take their own course," captures the idea of navigating through the difficult seas of life. Generally, the endless mysteries of life inspire the pursuit of perfection, causing our minds to be filled with constant turmoil. It's best to find peace and contentment in whatever situation we find ourselves, always finding joy and satisfaction wherever we are. Long ago, by a stream, there were two old men fishing on rocks. One, Mr. Giap, easily caught many fish, while the other, Mr. At, didn't catch any all day. Frustrated, Mr. At threw down his rod and asked Mr. Giap, "We use the same bait and fish in the same stream, so why is there such a difference in our luck?" Mr. Giap replied, "When I bait my hook, I focus only on myself and forget about the fish. My calm spirit makes the fish forget I'm here, so I catch them easily. You, on the other hand, keep thinking about the fish and watch them intently, which scares them away. Just relax and enjoy yourself, and the fish will come." Mr. At followed this advice and indeed began to catch fish. Commentary. Thinking he was nearing death, a man saw his young wife and couldn't bear the thought of leaving her. Out of deep love for her, he felt too possessive. Fearing her husband's attachment, the wife blinded herself to ease his worries, showing her deep commitment and devotion. He recovered, eventually becoming a high-ranking official, and remained devoted only to his wife, ignoring other beautiful women. This story celebrates a couple's profound love and lifelong fidelity. The husband, devoted to only his wife, not only avoided the troubles of multiple attachments but also built a lasting happiness for their family and future generations.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
30. Affection and emotions. People often have deep feelings that emerge strongly when they're moved by particular circumstances. However, if these feelings are mistakenly placed or expressed, they may not be the same afterwards. For instance, there was a man from Yan who grew up there, lived in the state of Suo as an adult, and returned to Yan in his old age. While traveling through the state of Jin, which is near Yan, his travel companions tricked him by pointing to a town and falsely claiming it was Yan. The man became visibly saddened. They pointed to a village ground saying it was his village, to a house claiming it was his ancestral home, and to a mound saying it was his ancestor's grave. The man broke down and cried at each lie. His companions laughed, revealing it was all a joke and they were actually in Jin, not Yan. Embarrassed, the man felt foolish. When he finally returned to Yan and saw his real hometown and ancestral graves, his feelings of affection were subdued and no longer as intense as before. Reflection. It's common for people to overflow with emotion when moved by circumstances. However, misplaced emotions may not endure. Just like the man from Yan who wasted his tears on false sights, by the time he encountered the truth, his emotional capacity seemed exhausted. Therefore, it's essential to nurture our disposition with knowledge and temper it with propriety, so our emotions are appropriate and genuine. Historically, wise and noble individuals have always understood how to manage their emotions correctly. 31. Knowing when you have enough is divine. Being adaptable keeps you alive. People who are content with what they have feel like they're living in a heavenly place, while those who are never satisfied remain stuck in the mundane world. After evaluating all reasons, it's concluded that adaptable and clever people can seize opportunities, whereas passive and clumsy ones often face risks. Kong Ruosi, a scholar from the Tang dynasty, was famous for his studies. In his youth, someone offered him many volumes of calligraphy by the renowned Chu Tuai Liang. Kong Ruosi, however, only accepted one. The giver exclaimed, "This calligraphy is a rare treasure in the world, more precious than gold or silver. Why don't you take them all?" Kong Ruosi replied, "If it's more valuable than gold or silver, then one volume is more than enough." He then gave half of that volume of calligraphy away. Later, Kong Ruosi was recommended for an academic position in the capital and was promoted several times, eventually becoming a mid-ranking official. He often told people, "I am satisfied with reaching this rank." He kept a still water jar by his seat to symbolize his contentment. 32. Seek simple joys in life, as nothing is absolutely perfect. Happiness and sadness often come hand in hand. Places of great beauty often contrast with less appealing areas. True contentment usually lies in ordinary family meals and simple natural settings. In the past, Mo Yu was a performer in the Royal Theatre. Originally from a prominent family, he fell in love with theater and became an artist. Eventually, he had the chance to inherit a noble title from his family, but as an artist, this was frowned upon. People advised him, "Acting is considered a lowly profession while a noble title brings honor. It is natural for people to abandon lower status for higher recognition." Mo Yu replied, "I feel fortunate to be an artist. I never feel lowly or degraded. On stage, I play kings and generals. Isn't it wonderful to capture everyone's attention as soon as the curtain goes up? What more could one want?" When someone mentioned that all those roles were just make-believe, Mo Yu responded, Do you think the honor of a title is any more real? Or could it be gone tomorrow just like that? 33. Keep calm in the chaos. Maintain enthusiasm in the cold. In a hectic life, being able to calmly observe changes around us can reduce many unnecessary worries. Troubles not going as desired can lead to frustration, but if we maintain the will to strive, we can achieve many genuine joys in life. Confucius's student, Yuan Xian, lived in poverty in the state of Lu, while another disciple, Zigong, lived in wealth in the state of Wei. Yuan Xian's poverty harmed his health, while Zigong's wealth also affected his health. Neither poverty nor wealth is good. What then is the right way? An ancient Chinese thinker, Yang Zhu, said, "A person can be happy all their life and also live peacefully all their life. Those who know how to live happily do not feel poor, and those who know how to live peacefully do not seek wealth." Money is merely an external material. It cannot be brought into life or taken away in death. It shows that money and life are unrelated. Yet, people often do not realize this, so they live and die for money, turning their whole life into a process of accumulating and spending money. Most do not know what makes life interesting. Tuanzi said, "A person who knows moderation lives in dire straits yet has an open mind, lives in wealth yet remains respectful and composed. When resting, their spirit is not slack. When working hard, their demeanor remains dignified. When successful, they do not punish too harshly in anger, and when happy, they do not reward excessively. This is truly a gentleman." 34. No need for fancy moves. Progress comes from simplicity. Literature values simplicity and reality to make progress, and ethics values sincerity and naturalness for self-cultivation. The word clumsy carries endless meaning, like a dog barking in a peach garden or a rooster crowing in a berry forest. Both are pure and full of flavor. However, the moon's reflection on a cold pond and a crow on a dry branch, though beautiful, bring a sense of decline to the scene. During the Warring States period, Tong Xiao, a senior official from the state of Liang, served as a district governor on the border next to the state of Su. People in the border regions of Liang and Su both grew melons. The Liang people, skilled in caring for their crops and diligent in watering, grew large, sweet melons. The Su people, lacking in care and watering, did not produce tasty melons. Envious of the superior Liang melons, some Su people would steal from Liang's melon gardens. When the Liang people reported this to Tong Xiao, asking for permission to catch the thieves, he advised against it, saying, "Liang and Su are neighbors. We should be sincere and love each other." The Liang people then helped water the Su's melon fields, and gradually Su's melons improved in quality. Touched by this gesture, the king of Su was deeply moved and offered 1,000 gold coins in gratitude, initiating a friendly relationship with Liang. This led to a lasting friendly alliance between the two states. 35. Resilience and simplicity. The story of King Gujian's determination and triumph. When facing difficulties, think about those who are worse off than you to quickly dissolve any resentment. When feeling disheartened and ready to give up, consider those who are more resilient to boost your spirits. During the Warring States period, the state of Wu conquered Vietnam, prompting King Gujian of Yue to vow to restore his nation and defeat Wu as revenge. To achieve this, he started with himself, setting an example through personal effort. He personally worked in the fields, and his wife wove their own cloth. They lived frugally, eating only the food they grew and wearing only the clothes they made. They did not overeat, aiming to stay slightly hungry, and wore simple or old clothes. Gujian avoided the temptation of luxury, did not take any concubines, and once told Zikong, I don't care for elaborate meals. I don't taste fine foods. I don't gaze upon beautiful women, and I don't listen to flattery. He did this in hopes of one day decisively confronting Wu. To keep himself from desiring a comfortable and pleasurable life, Gu Jian also kept a gallbladder in his bedroom to taste when feeling lazy, reminding himself, "Gu Jian, have you forgotten the taste of losing your country?" Eventually, Vietnam grew stronger and defeated Wu. 36. Lessons in Leadership and Friendship. The Tale of Tuma and Gu and the Quest for Harmony. 1. Being too strict can lead to discord, and making friends carelessly can result in bad company. 2. When managing people, one should not be too harsh, as this may drive away those who are eager to improve and succeed. Similarly, making friends indiscriminately can attract sycophants who flatter and deceive. 3. There's a story about Tu Man Gu, whose brother, Hoan Tai, was a corrupt individual plotting against their own country, the state of Tong. Tong Kan Kong, wanting to address the betrayal, asked another brother, Huang Sao, to lead troops against Hoan Tai. However, Huang Sao joined Hoan Tai in rebellion. Eventually, both brothers failed and fled to another country. Although Tu Man Gu did not support his brother's actions, he suffered poor treatment in Tong afterwards. To save his life, he used his lands and a precious jade as ransom and lived in exile. One day, feeling alone, he lamented, "Everyone has good siblings except for me." Upon hearing this, his advisor Tu Ha counseled him, "I've heard it said that life and wealth are determined by fate. If one lives uprightly and makes friends respectfully, the world is wide enough for friendships everywhere. Why grieve over not having siblings?" 4. In fact, based on these principles of respect and decorum, people can live harmoniously and care for each other like siblings. Confucianism talks about benevolence, righteousness, propriety, wisdom, and trustworthiness, aiming precisely to unite people under these ethical norms. 37. Being in the situation but remaining detached. When a boat is caught in a violent storm, those on the boat may not feel fear while those watching from the shore are terrified. At a party where someone is wildly shouting, those in the middle of it might not be alert, but the outsiders are horrified. Thus, a virtuous person, even when deeply involved in a situation, should keep their mind somewhat detached to maintain clarity and calmness. A famous official from the Eastern Jin dynasty, Ta An, before taking up his official duties, enjoyed traveling freely through the mountains and rivers, paying no mind to worldly affairs. He often invited friends to join him in enjoying the scenic beauty of nature, and every trip included singers for entertainment. Once, while sailing with friends, a storm arose and everyone was frightened. Ta An, however, sang calmly and naturally, easing everyone's fear. The sailors continued to sail out into the open sea as the winds grew stronger. At that point, Ta An calmly said, "Let's head towards the shore. How can we return otherwise?" The sailors immediately turned the boat around. Everyone greatly admired Ta An's composed and tranquil demeanor. 38. The True Essence of Poetry and the Mysteries of Zen. A person who cannot read but still deeply appreciates poetry truly understands the essence of it. Likewise, someone who doesn't know any Zen verses but possesses a deep insight into Zen can be said to have grasped its profound mysteries. Hui Neng, the sixth patriarch of Zen, grew up poor and uneducated, working as a woodcutter. At the age of 24, he was guided to study Buddhism with the fifth patriarch Hongren at Huangmei Mountain. He spent his days quietly working and practicing his faith, pounding rice in a storage hut. One day, Hongren announced to his disciples that he would pass on his teachings to anyone who could express their enlightenment through a verse and reveal the true foundation of Zen. The leading disciple, Shen Xiu, wrote a verse that was highly praised by all who read it. The body is the Bodhi tree. The mind is like a clear mirror stand. At all times we must strive to polish it, and must not let the dust collect. However, Huineng felt that although Shen Xiu's verse was truthful, it wasn't truly profound. So he composed his own verse, which was written down and posted beside Shen Xiu's. Originally, there is no Bodhi tree, nor is there a clear mirror stand. From the very beginning, not a single thing exists. Where then can the dust alight? This verse stunned everyone with its absolute expression of Zen, ultimately leading to Huineng receiving Hongren's teachings. 39. From quiet mornings among pines to wisdom under bamboo, the journey of Wang Mian. Reading the I Ching in a pine forest discussing the classics under bamboo groves, I sit quietly by the window in the early morning, reading the I Ching. I grind cinnabar with the dewdrops that fall from the pine needles and circle the great ideas in the book. In the evening, I sit at my reading desk studying the classics, letting my soul follow the clear sounds that blend with the wind drifting through the bamboo forest. Wang Mian was from Chuji, Zhejiang. When he was about 7 or 8 years old, he herded cattle in the fields but would sneak into the school to listen to the students recite their lessons, memorizing everything he heard in silence. His mother told his father, "Our son is so captivated, why not let him study?" So Wang Mian went to live in a monastery under a monk's care. At night, he would sneak into the Buddha hall, sit on the knees of a Buddha statue, and read fervently by lamplight until dawn. Many of the statues in the Buddha hall were made of clay and looked fierce, which would frighten others, but Wang Mian, being a child, paid no mind to this and acted as if he saw nothing. In Anyang, a scholar named Han Xing, amazed at Wang Mian's dedication to learning, took him as a disciple. Wang Mian diligently pursued his studies and eventually became a learned and wise man, knowledgeable about ancient and modern times. Some people wanted to recommend him for a government position, but Wang Mian said, "I have land to farm, books to read. Why should I entangle myself with court cases from morning to night and risk my life for others?" 40. We're all alike, whether active or still, we forget everything. People who like peace and quiet often avoid crowded places to enjoy tranquility, but they don't realize that intentionally avoiding crowds is actually a form of stubbornness. Actively seeking quietness can actually be the root of chaos. How can one achieve the state where they consider themselves as just another person, forgetting both silence and noise? During the reign of Emperor Yao in China, there was a man named Shu Yu. Emperor Yao heard of Shu Yao's talents and wanted him to govern the empire. Upon hearing this, Shu Yu fled north to the central region and hid under Mount Ji. Emperor Yao summoned him to be the governor of all the provinces, but Shu Yu did not want to hear of this and went to the bank of the Ding River to wash his ears. At that moment, the famous hermit Cao Fu was passing by with his ox, intending to let the ox drink water. Seeing Shu Yu washing his ears, Cao Fu asked why. Shu Yu replied, "Emperor Yao wants me to be the governor, and I don't like this news, so I am washing my ears." Cao Fu responded, "If you live secluded in high mountains and deep caves, completely isolated from everyone, then who can recognize you? Your intentional wandering is just to make people aware of your reputation. Washing your ears in the river will dirty the mouth of my ox." After saying this, he led his ox upstream. 41. Finding Peace in the Mountains, a tale of noble solitude and tragic loyalty. Living in the mountains brings a sense of peace and purity to the soul, inspiring noble thoughts. Watching clouds drift by or birds spread their wings can elevate one's thoughts above all else. Encountering a clear stream flowing down a ravine might inspire a desire to cleanse oneself of all mundane impurities. Caressing ancient pine trees and plum trees in the winter's chill as they stand tall against the cold snow, alongside seagulls and deer can help one forget all worries and calculations. Returning to the world of men, one may realize that nothing really pertains to oneself, feeling even this physical body to be superfluous. Tangong of the state of Jin, during the spring and autumn period, lived in exile for 19 years, enduring many hardships. His loyal follower, Ji Zitui, was always by his side, achieving many feats. Later, when Tangong returned to his country to rule as Duke Wen, he granted land titles to his lords but forgot Ji Zitui. This oversight caused public dismay, and an anonymous paper was posted at the palace gate criticizing Duke Wen for his ingratitude. Embarrassed by this, Duke Wen sent for Ji Zitui. However, Ji Zitui had already retreated to the mountains to live in seclusion with his mother, saying he wanted only to care for her and uphold filial piety, not wishing to return to society. When Duke Wen tried to force him down by setting the mountain on fire, Ji Zitui chose death over submission, and he and his mother died hugging a large tree in the forest.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
42. Reducing chaos and increasing peace is the foundation of happiness. If we can cut down on one thing in life, we can partly transcend the mundane. By lessening our social entanglements, we can avoid many troubles. By speaking less, we can reduce many mistakes and criticisms. By being less hasty, we can conserve our mental energy. And by avoiding cunning, we can preserve our natural and simple nature. Those who don't want to decrease, but only want to increase, are truly bound by their own lives. In ancient China, there was a temple called Nam Thien, and in front of this temple lived an old woman known as the Weeping Lady. Whether it rained or shone, she wept continuously as she prayed. The head monk of Nam Thien Temple asked her, "Old lady, why do you weep?" Sobbing, she replied, "Reverend, you don't know. I have 2 daughters. The elder married a shoemaker and the younger married an umbrella seller. On sunny days, I worry the younger can't sell her umbrellas. On rainy days, I worry the elder can't sell her shoes. That's why I'm sad and cry." The monk advised, "Old lady, don't cry. Whether it rains or shines, we should thank Buddha and live well. On sunny days, think of your elder daughter thriving. On rainy days, think of your younger daughter doing well." The old woman wiped her tears and smiled. From then on, the Weeping Lady was always seen smiling joyfully, leading a happy and content life. 43. Use your own ability to handle things. Be free and easy. When you control things, whether you succeed or not, you won't feel thrilled or upset. You just feel at ease throughout your life. If you let things control you, you might get angry when things don't go your way and happy when they do. Even small matters can tie you down. During the Warring States period in Luoyang, there was a merchant named Bach Ku, who was a prominent trader after Pham Lai. His business philosophy, summed up in 8 words, was, "Take advantage when others hold, and hold when others take." He mainly dealt with agricultural byproducts. Following this philosophy, when there was a good harvest and prices fell due to surplus, he would buy and store the grains. In years of poor harvests, when prices skyrocketed, he would sell his stored grains. This way, he didn't push prices down when they were already low, nor did he hike them excessively when they were high, allowing him to balance market supply and demand effectively. Thus, Baku was praised as a master of grain trading. He took great pride in his trading skills, emphasizing that a good merchant must cultivate knowledge, courage, benevolence, and strength to thrive in the complex and ever-changing market. 44. Freedom of the Soul, a poet's clever defiance at the Song Dynasty court. Paragraph 1. The greatest joy in life can be found in literature about the natural world. Whether one feels confined or completely free is all in the mind. If the soul is perceptive and understanding, even a simple butcher's tavern can transform into a heavenly paradise. However, if the soul is not pure, then even leisurely pursuits like playing music or gardening, though elegant, cannot rid one of inner demons. There's a saying, only by escaping worldly ties can one truly reach enlightenment, otherwise one is no different from the ordinary person. Paragraph 2. During the Song dynasty, Emperor Zhenzong heard about a poet named Yang Fu who wrote beautifully. Intrigued, the emperor sent for him, eager to witness his poetic talent and to potentially offer him a position at court. Upon arrival, Yang Fu claimed he had never written poetry. Zhenzong asked him if anyone had written a poem for him recently. Yang Fu replied that only his wife had gifted him a poem. Thinking Yang was just being modest, the emperor grew more interested and asked to hear this poem. Yang recited, "The more spirited the wine, the deeper I dive into the joy of poetry. Today, I'm summoned to the palace, but it's time to say goodbye to the old ways." Amused by the response, Zhenzong let Yang return home. Yang wasn't just being humble. He cleverly used his wife's supposed poem as a way to respectfully resist the emperor's demand. This shows there were two types of hermits back then: those who hid for fame and gain, and those like Yang Fu who genuinely sought solitude, never caring for official titles. 45. Letting things flow naturally, gradually becoming free of distracting thoughts. Today, people want to keep their minds free of distractions, but achieving this is not always easy. The key is not to dwell on past distractions or worry about future ones. By simply letting go of current distractions, one can gradually reach a state of clarity. Master Linji, an ancient monk from Japan, once said, "Before I was enlightened, I felt surrounded by darkness, as if I was in a barrel of paint." That's why later generations describe freeing oneself from illusion and gaining enlightenment as breaking out of the paint barrel. For example, a revered nun named Tenzai Daishi, who stayed at Tung Qin Temple, used her strength to help the temple by carrying water. One day, while carrying a barrel, the bottom fell out and all the water spilled. She had a sudden realization and composed a verse. "Tenzai carries water, the bottom falls out, hold no water, hold no moon." From that day, she truly broke out of the paint barrel. Master Bank also wrote a verse. "The old barrel's bottom falls out, and heaven and earth are one circle." When the bottom of the barrel fell, all that remained was a circle encompassing heaven and earth. 46. Understanding the heart of both lay people and monks. In the forest, the cheerful chirping of birds and the trickling of water through the rocks can be heard. By quietly listening, one can appreciate the splendid symphony of nature between heaven and earth. Fog hovers over the grass, and beautiful white clouds cast their reflections on the water, offering a peaceful sight that stands as one of nature's finest artworks in the universe. Long ago, two Zen masters were traveling far from home. One day, they reached the banks of a river just as the tide was coming in. A woman wanted to cross the river but didn't know how. One of the monks took her by the arm to help her across. After walking more than a mile, the other monk criticized him. You have broken the monastic rules by speaking to a woman and helping her across the river. The monk who helped the woman replied, "In spreading kindness, we do not differentiate between old or young, male or female." 47. It's better to rely on yourself than on others. When you are a king, the most important thing is to fulfill your duties as a king and to love and educate your people. Forming alliances with stronger states is only a temporary measure. The real strategy is to strengthen yourself based on your own capabilities. If you rely too much on others, you'll eventually be looked down upon and find yourself in a vulnerable position. Van Kong of the state of Dang once asked his advisor Mencius, "Our state of Dang is small, located between the large states of Ti and So. We should please both, but we can't possibly satisfy them both. Should we align with Ti or So? I really don't know which one to rely on for our peace." Mencius replied, "Any strategy that depends on others is never secure. Favoring Ti will anger So, and favoring So will anger Ti. We cannot resolve this quickly. I only suggest one thing. Keep your state strong. Dig deep moats, build high walls, govern your people well, and unite them. If a crisis arises and the king is ready to die for his state, the people will also be ready to die and not abandon their ruler. By winning the hearts of the people, you secure the country and strengthen it from within. As for aligning with Ti or So, I cannot decide. Being a king, the most important thing is to completely fulfill your royal duties and love and educate your people. Forming alliances with stronger nations is merely a temporary position. The real strategy is to strengthen oneself based on one's own principles. Because by inserting oneself into others, one will inevitably be looked down upon and find oneself in a vulnerable position. While it's understood that smaller states must respect larger ones, it's also an indispensable way of interaction. But because Van Kong was overly focused on worshiping the powerful, Mencius advised as he did. Indeed, when leaders and their people share life and death together, the whole country unites, creating an invisible strength that no enemy would dare to challenge. With such unity, there is nothing to fear. However, times have changed, and although internal governance may be strong, diplomacy needs to be more insightful and wise for a nation to truly stand strong in the world. 48. When people are angry, they can become blind, but when calm, they see more clearly. In chaotic and noisy situations, people often forget things they normally remember. However, in calm and peaceful conditions, those forgotten details seem to reappear before their eyes. Thus, it is evident that being in a state of confusion is vastly different from being clear-headed. Dao Dap Tzu, from the Chu region, served as a high official in the state of Dao for 3 years without any notable achievements, and his reputation was not good. Yet, his household wealth tripled compared to before. His wife advised him, saying, "People who lack ability but hold high positions will eventually face disaster. If your household grows rich without any accomplishments, it surely accumulates misfortunes." Did you know the leopard in the Nanshan Mountains hides in the fog for 7 months without hunting? It does so to protect its glossy and spotted coat from harm. Similarly, a pig fattened indiscriminately will be slaughtered. Now, if you continue like this, how can you avoid disaster? Despite her advice, Dao Dap Tzu ignored her and even drove her away. A year later, indeed, he was executed. 49. Having a heart as unyielding as wood or stone can lead to joy as fleeting as clouds and water. Those who cultivate their mind and moral character must have a resolve as firm as wood or stone. Craving for fame and luxury will trap them in a cycle of material desires. Leaders who seek to save the world must be as simple as wandering monks. Desiring glory and riches will lead them into dangerous pitfalls. During the spring and autumn period, the state of Jin was dominant among the feudal lords, and every year the states had to pay tribute to Jin, though the amount was not significant. After Fan Sui became the political leader of Jin, he demanded that the states increase their tribute. The prime minister of the state of Zheng, Zichan, disagreed. He told Fan Sui, "Historically, Jin has been revered for its moral integrity, which has led to a strong and honest populace. However, I have noticed that Jin's reputation for good deeds is not well known abroad, which makes others only see the benefits from Jin without recognizing its moral values. A good reputation is the vehicle for good moral qualities and cannot be neglected. I hope you can start by reducing the demands for tribute so that Jin's reputation for moral integrity can spread far and wide." Fan Sui was moved by Zichan's words and eventually accepted his suggestion. 50. The art of letting go leads to extraordinary realms. Letting go of the desire for fame and wealth can elevate a person beyond the ordinary. Similarly, moving beyond traditional moral thinking can reach a saintly state. During the Tang dynasty, Quan Cao was a just and upright official serving under the military governor Enloc's son. Aware of Enloc's son's rebellion and his suspicious nature, Quan Cao wanted to leave, but was concerned about the repercussions for his parents. In the 14th year of the Tianbao era, Enloc's son sent him to the capital to escort prisoners. Seizing this opportunity, Quan Cao visited Fu Xuang, a local official, under the pretext of illness to meet him. Overwhelmed during their meeting, Quan Cao could not speak and just stared intensely at Fu Xuang. Seeing an opportunity, Fu Xuang arranged what he thought would be Quan Cao's funeral. However, Quan Cao secretly fled. After An Lok San's rebellion failed and the truth about Quan Cao came to light, many people wanted to employ him, but he declined all offers. Like Quan Cao, many in history have achieved great things. Some pursued official positions, others retired after success, and some chose reclusive lives, truly understanding the times. 51. Understanding the essence, remaining composed. Life is like a puppet show. Once you grasp the strings that control the puppet, no thread can tangle you up. You're free to move or stop as you please without being restrained or influenced by others. During the Tang dynasty, Tai Tong of the Tang dynasty gave Kebat Haluk of the Tielekatan tribe a high position after he and his tribe pledged loyalty to the Tang. In 645 AD, when Tai Tong personally led an attack against the kingdom of Goguryeo, he appointed Kebat Haluk to lead the vanguard. During a fierce battle at Bak Nham fortress, Kebat Haluk was severely injured by the Goguryeo general Bat. Tai Tong, who greatly admired this valiant foreign general, personally prepared medicine to heal his wounds. After conquering the fortress and capturing General Bat, who had wounded Kebat Haluk, Tai Tong wanted revenge. However, Kebat Haluk said, "We fought because it was our duty to our respective leaders, not out of personal hatred." He spared Bat's life. Tai Tong praised his broad-mindedness and lack of personal vendetta, and his status at court grew even stronger. 52. Embracing life's changes. Wisdom from Zhuangzi on prosperity, adversity, and acceptance. Whether we face good times or bad, joy or sorrow, we should treat them all the same. When a mother gives birth, she faces life-threatening dangers. Accumulating wealth may attract thieves. How can we say that these are purely joyful occasions without any sadness? On the other hand, poverty helps develop frugality, and sickness prompts us to take better care of our health. How can we say these are purely bad when they bring about good? Therefore, A wise person treats prosperity and adversity the same and forgets both happiness and grief. When Zhuangzi's wife passed away, Huishi came to offer his condolences and saw Zhuangzi sitting on the ground, tapping on a pot and singing. Huishi asked, "Your wife, who lived her whole life with you and bore your children, has just died and you're not crying but singing. Isn't that inappropriate?" Zhuangzi replied, "It is not so. Of course, I was saddened by her death at first, but then I reflected on the nature of life itself. Originally, humans have no life, no physical form, not even breath. It's in constant change that breath appears, and with changes in breath comes form, and with changes in form comes life. Now, my wife has gone through another change. She has died, which is just like the natural changes of the seasons. She rests peacefully in the vastness of nature. If I continued to mourn and cry, wouldn't I be failing to understand the true nature of life? That's why I am not crying." Zhuangzi's calm acceptance of life and death comes from his understanding that life and death are relative, merely natural changes.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
53. The signs of the wind and moon's shadow pass by and do not linger. Listening to everything is like a storm blowing through a canyon, creating a loud echo, but then it passes and does not stay. Thus, worldly criticisms and controversies will all disappear. The state of mind is like the moon reflecting in the water, leaving no trace. In this way, one can achieve a level where both self and objects are forgotten. During the Warring States period, there was a man named Dong Xiao who asked the famous philosopher of the time, Zhuangzi, "What, in your opinion, is the Tao?" Zhuangzi replied, "The Tao is nowhere not present." "Can you show it to me?" asked Dong Xiao. "In an ant, in a blade of grass, in a shard of pottery. Your question does not lead anywhere. Do not point definitively at anything that contains it, the Tao, for there is nothing that does not contain it. Such is the greatness of the Tao." Dong Xiao then asked, "How can one come to understand the Tao?" Zhuangzi answered, "When you reach a level where you forget both self and objects, then you will truly comprehend the Tao." 54. Finding peace of mind to enjoy the serene moon and breezy wind. When your inner thoughts clear away, your soul feels refreshed and light, as if a cool breeze gently touches you. Life no longer seems full of suffering. With a free and open heart, the hustle and bustle of everyday life fade away, and there's no need to seek solitude in quiet mountains and forests. During the northern and southern dynasties, the monk Tu Ka once asked Bodhidharma, "Can you tell me the secret essence passed from one Buddha's heart to another?" Bodhidharma replied, "The essence of the Buddha can't be transferred from others." Tu Ka then said, "My heart has not yet reached complete tranquility. Please help me find peace." Bodhidharma responded, "Bring me your mind, and I will give you peace." After a pause, Tu Ka said, "I have searched for a long time and cannot find it." Bodhidharma then declared, "I have already given you peace of mind." The common human turmoil of an unsettled mind stems from our endless pursuit to rid ourselves of these disturbances. But ironically, this pursuit often leads to greater distress. 55. The disease of forgetfulness. People's hearts can be dark or bright, and life often throws us many confusing and troublesome situations that we'd rather not see, hear, or even know about. We just want to forget them all. That's why the philosopher Liezi grew tired of life and shared this story to express his frustration and sorrow. In the state of Song, there was an elderly man who suddenly developed a forgetfulness illness. What he received in the morning, he forgot by the evening. What he gave today, he forgot the next day. When he went out, he forgot where he was going, and at home he forgot to sit down. He forgot everything he ever did or was doing. His family was very worried. Fortune-telling didn't help, neither did rituals or medicine. Then a scholar from the state of Lu promised he could cure him. The sick man's wife promised the scholar half of their wealth if he succeeded. The scholar said, "This disease can't be diagnosed through fortune-telling, nor cured by rituals or medicine. Let me try changing his mental state and see if that helps." He then made the man feel cold by removing his clothes to see him ask for a coat, made him hungry to see him ask for food, and put him in a dark room to see him ask for light. The scholar was pleased and told the man's son, "The illness can be cured, but the method is a secret I cannot share." He then stayed alone with the patient for 7 days. No one knows exactly what he did, but the long-standing illness was cured. When the man recovered, he became angry, yelled at his wife, hit his children, and chased the scholar away with a spear. When asked why he was so angry, he said, "When I was forgetful, I was at peace, not knowing or caring about the world. Now that I remember all the good and bad memories of the past decades, the successes and failures, joys and sorrows are overwhelming me. I'm afraid these memories will haunt me forever, and I won't be able to forget them even for a moment." Reflection. Just as in Liezhi's times, people's hearts can be dark or bright and life can be very confusing. Liezhi wrote this story out of a deep frustration with the harshness of life back then, which is not unlike the complexity and deceit in today's world. It makes us ponder what is truly valuable and worth cherishing in such a challenging world. 56. Let the body be natural, free from worldly rules. Fruits and vegetables growing wild in the forests and mountains are not tended by humans, and wild animals are not cared for by humans either. Yet, their flavors are incredibly delicious and pure. If we are not tainted by the pursuit of fame and fortune, wouldn't our qualities be just as exceptional as anyone else's? During the Northern Song dynasty, there was a high official named Gu Xiangqi. He highly respected a scholar named Hua who was very noble. It was customary in those times to refer to oneself by name to show humility. However, Hua, regardless of whether someone was of high or low status, important or not, never used his name but always referred to himself as I. For this reason, people called him I Hua. Gu Xiangqi had long admired Hua and went through great effort to invite him. Hua agreed and rode a donkey to the prime minister's residence, intending to go directly into the main hall. The doorman stopped him, saying, "This is the main hall of the prime minister. All new guests must dismount." But Hua replied, "I didn't ask for the prime minister. He invited me. If this is how you treat guests, I will leave." And so, he did not dismount but simply rode away. The doorman couldn't chase after him to invite him back and had to report back to the prime minister. Gu Xiangqi sent an apology and invited Hua again. But Hua did not wish to go. Deeply moved, Gu Xiangqi said, "Hua is just an ordinary man, but because he does not beg others, he will not submit to the power of his opponents. Moreover, those who live by their principles and are proud and noble in spirit will not bow to authority either." 57. Fearing our own. The tale of rivalry and fear among peers. What could be scarier than the weak fearing the strong, the foolish fearing the wise, or the uncivilized fearing the civilized? But these fears are trivial compared to the fear of our own kind, our peers, which is a constant and truly terrifying fear. In the story, there's a mysterious spirit in a library that never shows itself but often engages in fascinating conversations. Once, during a gathering, the guests decided to play a game where everyone must share their fears and face a penalty if their fear sounds unreasonable. As they took turns, fears about the educated, the wealthy, the powerful, and even the overly humble or polite were voiced. When it was the spirit's turn, it simply stated it feared other spirits like itself. Everyone laughed, thinking it absurd since typically one fears other spirits, not their own kind, and the spirit was penalized with a drink. However, the spirit explained, the most intense rivalries and fears often arise among those closest to us, siblings fighting over inheritance, spouses jealous of each other, colleagues in power struggles, all creating obstacles and undermining each other. Even in hunting, predators use their own kind as bait. This illustrates a deeper truth. We often fear our own kind the most because of competition and conflict. The audience agreed that the spirit's point was valid. Commentary: the weak fear the strong and the foolish fear the wise, just as ordinary animals might fear a tiger. But these fears pale in comparison to the fear of our own kind, our colleagues and peers. Why is it that we fear those like us more than any wild beast? It's because only those who are of the same species or share the same profession pose a real threat through competition, watching each other closely and potentially harming each other to gain an advantage, leading to disastrous consequences. It is indeed a sad reality that humans often harm each other. 58. The world is full of joy, and suffering arises from the mind. People often feel life is full of suffering because they are bound by desires for fame and fortune. They fail to notice that clouds still cover the mountains, rivers flow ceaselessly, brooks nestle close to each other, fresh flowers bloom, birds sing melodiously, and the mountain valleys echo with the songs of woodcutters. All around there are beautiful sights to behold. The world is not merely a mundane place, and life is not entirely about suffering. Those who see life as a sea of suffering are merely drowning in worldly concerns and their own distress. Han Shan and Shi De were respected monks during the Tang dynasty, living freely and naturally without concern for social formalities. Han Shan retreated to a secluded place 70 miles west of Tiantai County in Zhejiang, where he was often seen visiting the Guoqing Temple. He usually wore a hat made from palm leaves and tattered clothes, walked in wooden clogs, and could be found singing, shouting, laughing alone, or lost in thought. Yet, his words always carried deep philosophical insights. Shi De was an orphan raised by Feng Gan at Guoqing Temple, and was affectionately called Shi De. He often saved leftover temple food in bamboo tubes for Han Shan. The two enjoyed drinking wine and reciting poetry, celebrating their freedom and joy. Later, the district officer of Daizhou, Lu Zhouhan, learned about these two unique individuals from Feng Gan. He visited them at the temple, bowing in respect despite their humble appearance. They laughed loudly, held hands, and left the temple together, following Han Shan back to his hermitage. Lu Zhouhan visited again, offering clothes and medicine. Eventually, Han Shan and Shi De retreated deeper into the mountains and vanished from public view. Unbound by material desires, their free-spirited actions and appreciation of hardship as joy demonstrated a profound understanding of life and the human condition. 59. Power comes from the mind, and it is also destroyed by the mind. People who think a lot might mistake the image of a bow in a glass of water for a poisonous snake, or a rock in the grass for a fierce tiger lying in wait, filled with murderous intent. When these desires settle, the cruel tiger rock can transform into a gentle seagull, and the loud noise of frogs can turn into melodious music, making everything we see before us truly fascinating. In the year 383 AD, after uniting the north, the king of former Qin, Fujian, forced the northern people into an army of 870,000 and marched south to completely destroy the eastern Jin. At that time, the Eastern Jin government sent Tao Huang to lead 80,000 soldiers to meet the enemy head-on. The battle began, and the vanguard of the Eastern Jin defeated the Qin forces at Luxi and faced the Qin vanguard across the Fei River. Fu Jian climbed up to Shuyang, now in Anhui Shuxian, and seeing the Jin troops regrouping, he mistook distant trees and mountains about 8 miles away for Jin soldiers, and out of fear, he exclaimed, "The enemy is so numerous. How can it be said that Jin has few men?" Subsequently, using this tactic, the Jin troops defeated the Qin forces, chased them down, and the Qin soldiers fled in a panic, trampling each other to death across the wild mountain region. The fleeing soldiers, hearing the howling wind and the cries of cranes, thought these were the sounds of the Jin troops pursuing them, and out of fear, dared not stop. Thus, the once mighty former Qin army suffered a great defeat and collapse, and soon after, the kingdom was lost. 60. The downfall of an arrogant general. Lessons from ancient Zhao. When someone truly understands their nature, there's no need to discuss meditation. People with a pure and simple nature eat when hungry and drink when thirsty to maintain their health. On the other hand, those with a chaotic and unclear mind waste their energy even if they read Buddhist scriptures. During the Warring States period in ancient China, there was a famous general from the state of Zhao named Zhao Xia. His son, Zhao Quat, was very bright and loved learning from a young age, especially military studies. He read many military books and could even recite them by heart. Whenever discussing military tactics, he could quote classics effortlessly and spoke eloquently. Many people admired his talents. Hearing the praise, Zhao Quat became arrogant and once declared, "Fighting a battle is very simple. It's not a big deal at all." Hearing this, Zhao Xia lamented, "A person with a foolish heart won't understand Buddha's teachings on meditation, and someone who boasts, even if knowledgeable in military theories, won't be able to lead troops effectively. In the future, Zhao doesn't need him. If he leads our armies, he will bring ruin to Zhao." Years later, when the state of Qin attacked Zhao, Zhao Quat was appointed as a general. True to his father's prediction, his lack of real skill and his impulsive and eager nature led to his defeat against the Qin forces. 61. Understanding True Liberation. The Journey of Dao Xin, the fourth patriarch of Zen Buddhism. Praying to Buddha in your heart while rejecting superficial practices shows one truly understands the essence of life beyond material constraints. If one wishes to abandon the raft immediately upon reaching the shore, they truly grasp this concept. However, if you keep seeking a different donkey while already riding one, you'll never become a high monk capable of transcending worldly attachments. During the 12th reign of the Sui dynasty, there was a young novice monk named Dao Xin, who was just 14 years old. He went to meet the third patriarch of Zen Buddhism, Senkan, and said, "Please, compassionate master, liberate me with the teachings of Buddha." Senkan asked, "Who has bound you?" Dao Xin replied, "No one has bound me." Senkan then said, "If no one has bound you, why seek liberation?" Dao Xin instantly understood. He then followed and took care of Senkan for 9 years, later receiving full ordination in Hebei and continuing his devoted service. Senkan, after many discussions and realizing Dao Xin's deep understanding and readiness, passed on his teachings to him. Dao Xin eventually became the fourth patriarch of Zen Buddhism. This story illustrates the irony of seeking freedom while being unaware that the pursuit itself may be a binding force. 62. Good harmony brings a pure heart. Having kind and compassionate thoughts can become a warm breath between heaven and earth. A pure soul can leave a lasting good reputation for generations to come. Trin Van Ku's first wife from the Eastern Han Dynasty had 4 children. His second wife, Kwai Ma Kwong, also had 2 sons. After Trin Van Ku died, his 4 children from his first wife did not respect their stepmother and often made things difficult for her. However, Kwai Ma Kwong was extremely kind and gentle with them. Her son, living far away, provided them with food and clothing. Someone advised her to separate from these 4 children, but she said, "I want to use good manners to teach them not to follow a bad path." When the oldest son from the first wife fell seriously ill, Kwai Ma Kwong was very sad and personally cooked for him and took care of him meticulously. After a long illness, he finally recovered. He told his brothers, "Our stepmother is kind and we have not cared for her as we should, worse than animals. Yet she has not blamed us and has treated us even better, so our wrongdoing is truly unforgivable." The 4 brothers went to the local authorities to ask for punishment. The district praised Kwai Ma Kwong and allowed the 4 sons to repent and reform themselves. Kwai Ma Kwong strictly taught them, and eventually all 4 achieved great things. Therefore, it can be seen that the profound meaning of culture is always centered on harmony. Being cheerful and polite can help one improve themselves and manage their family, using harmony to achieve peace and paving the way for a promising future.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
63. A clear mind leads to pure intentions. An enlightened heart reveals true nature. When you remove malicious thoughts from your heart and remain calm, your true nature will reveal itself. Trying to find your natural self without inner peace is like trying to catch the moon's reflection by stirring the water. You'll only grasp emptiness. Keeping your soul pure and clear will bring inner peace. If you do not fully understand the thoughts dwelling within and yet long for tranquility, it's like covering a dusty mirror with more dust. During the spring and autumn period, there was a man named Yang Ju who stayed in a boarding house in the state of Song. The landlord had 2 wives, one very beautiful and the other quite plain. The landlord loved the plain wife more than the beautiful one. Curious, Yang Ju asked why. The landlord replied, "The proud and beautiful wife, despite her looks, does not appear beautiful to me. The plain wife, however, remains calm and kind regardless of circumstances. She does not harbor jealousy or spite because of her looks, and because she can cast aside dark thoughts, her demeanor naturally exudes a gentle beauty. I don't think she's ugly at all." Yang Ju then said, "Students should note, as long as one maintains purity of heart, one's true nature will naturally show, and such a person will be respected wherever they go." 64. Plant flowers and bamboo, cultivate a selfless mindset. You should reduce your desires for fame and profit, and nurture your life with hobbies like gardening. Let all your worries dissolve into nothingness. Forget the minor troubles of life. Light some incense. Brew a pot of good tea. And don't even bother asking who the child in white is. The great poet Dao Uyen-min of the Eastern Jin Dynasty planted 5 willow trees in front of his house and called himself Mr. 5 Willows. He wrote the following lines: "Mr. knows not who this person may be, nor even his own name. By the house stand 5 willow trees. Thus he is named. Mr. is quiet and serene, speaks little, and desires neither fame nor profit." When Dao Uyen-min retired, he devoted himself to gardening and found great joy and companionship in plants, birds, and wildlife. In May and June, he would often sleep under the north window, enjoying the cool breeze and peaceful contentment, just like the noble sages of old. Dao Uyen-min loved wine, but being poor, he couldn't often afford it. One year during the Double Ninth Festival, without any wine, He sat by the chrysanthemums and enjoyed their fragrance. Looking into the distance, he saw an official in white approaching. It was the deputy magistrate of Jiangzhou, Wang Hong, who had sent him wine. Overjoyed, Dao Uyenmin drank to intoxication before returning home. 65. In a world among the clouds, the universe exists in tranquility. Standing by a bamboo fence, suddenly hearing the rooster crow and the dogs bark, I felt as though I was living in a magical realm. Sitting in my study, the sudden cries of cicadas and crows made me realize that even in silence, there is a depth of unspoken emotions. Zhuang Dai, a renowned scholar from the late Ming and early Qing dynasties, was a tea aficionado who often used tea to bond with friends. Once, he visited another scholar, Man Van Thuy, who asked him, "Why have you come here?" Zhuang Dai replied, "I have long heard of your great reputation, and I would not leave today without tasting your tea." Man Van Thuy, also a tea connoisseur, was delighted and personally prepared the tea. The tea sparkled under the lamp's glow with a rich aroma. Zhuang Dai praised it, guessing it was from Laqiu region, but prepared in the style of Lang Uyen tea. Man Van Thuy was amazed at Zhuang Dai's deep knowledge of tea. However, when it came to the water used in the tea, Zhuang Dai couldn't explain. Man Van Thuy revealed it was special spring water from Hu, drawn at midnight when a new stream of water emerged and immediately collected. Later, Man Van Thuy served another pot of tea, which Zhuang Dai noted had a stronger fragrance and richer taste, guessing it was spring tea, unlike the previous autumn tea. Man Van Thuy laughed heartily. "I am 70 years old and have never met anyone as knowledgeable about tea as you. Indeed, even a single pot of tea can reveal profound mysteries." 66. Moonlight Reflections, Finding Peace and Clarity, Beyond Exile. Silence reveals reality, simplicity reveals true nature. When the wind is still and the seas are calm, you can see the true state of life. It's in simplicity and modesty that the true nature of one's character is felt. Su Shi, a famous poet from the Northern Song dynasty who wrote many great poems, was once exiled to Huangzhou for offending the nobility. One evening, as he was feeling sleepy, he saw the moon bright and clear in the sky, as if it were day, which made him wide awake. He went to the Tianqing temple to meet his friend Zhang Huaiji for a moonlit walk in the courtyard. The moonlight in the courtyard made the water look like it was mixed with grass, but it turned out to be the reflection of bamboo. Zhang Huaiji, also an exile in Huangzhou, joined him, and Su Shi remarked, "What courtyard doesn't have moonlight? What place doesn't have bamboo? But few are as leisurely as you and I." From then, a feeling of no concerns about power suddenly emerged. Here, Su Shi shook off his worries about his exile, found peace and clarity, truly reaching a state of joy in life, blending with the world around him. 67. Understanding true nature, achieving a saintly level. Being bound by material desires can make our lives feel sorrowful. It is in moments of clear and leisurely ease that life seems truly precious and enjoyable. Realizing this is somewhat sad. The emotions of worldly life that we cling to will instantly vanish, and knowing this is truly valuable. In this natural state, the divine realm is perfectly attained. Lu Vanxiu, an editor during the Qing dynasty, passed the imperial examinations during the reign of Emperor Qianlong and was appointed to a scholarly position in Hunan. He then taught in Jiangxi for over 20 years. Lu Vanxiu was very diligent in editing books. Every morning at dawn, he would start editing under the dim light, grinding his red and black inks, surrounded by piles of books with hardly any room for a teapot. At dusk, he would leave his room, take a walk in the garden, and then light his lamp to continue his work into the late night. Lu Xiu edited books from cold winters to hot summers, tirelessly for over 10 years, dedicating his life to books without amassing any personal wealth. 68. Reduce illusions, increase spiritual awareness. Sexual desire is as strong as fire, but when one considers the state of being sick, that burning passion turns to ash. Fame and fortune are sweet like honey, but thinking about dying for money makes chasing after these things taste as bland as chewing wax. Therefore, if one always keeps in mind illness and death, it is possible to eliminate the pursuit of illusions and cultivate a mindset focused on spiritual practice. During the Tang Dynasty, monk Tong Xiao once asked Zen master Pu Yuan, "What is the way?" Pu Yuan replied, "The normal mind is the way." Tong Xiao asked, "Can this way be reached through knowing and practicing?" Pu Yuan answered, "As soon as you plan to know and practice, you are going against the true way." Tong Xiao then asked, "If we don't know or practice, how can we know it's the way?" Pu Yuan explained, "The true way cannot be known or explained, nor is it something that cannot be known or unexplained. If you reach the state of the true way, it is like the vast void, indescribable and beyond ordinary distinctions." Through this, Tong Xiao gained sudden enlightenment in Zen philosophy. 69. Returning to nature, recalling the past. It's better to make friends with an old hermit in a deep mountain cave than with ordinary people in the busy streets. Visiting an ordinary neighbor is more worthwhile than seeking out important officials. Listening to the distant singing of a woodcutter is preferable to hearing the gossip at the street corners. Discussing the virtuous deeds and words of ancient sages is more meaningful than talking about the random actions of people today. The poet Tuan Kham from the Northern Song dynasty was a bold and ambitious man. He once served as a royal guard and was known for enforcing the law strictly, unafraid of powerful bullies. He dealt harshly with arrogant local officials, earning the love of the people. Tuan Kham was generous and enjoyed drinking. He lived with his brother-in-law Do Dien, a high official of the Northern Song. Each evening he would read books with a drink by his side. Once, while reading about the historical figure Zhang Liang in the History of the Han, he clapped his hands at a missed assassination attempt in the story, then took a big drink. Reading another historical text, he exclaimed about the rarity of a meeting between a ruler and his minister, and again drank his fill. Du Dien, watching, joked that with such good snacks, even a jar of wine wasn't too much. Thus, Tuan Kham's way of enjoying historical tales with wine became a well-known story. Instead of causing rumors by gossiping about others, he immersed his emotions in history, embracing the grandeur of the ancients. 70. Strategic compassion, turning debts into gratitude in ancient China. When we have nothing to do, it's easy to become lost in daydreams, and we should maintain sharp awareness in our tranquility. When we are busy and in a hurry, it's common to feel impatient, so we should keep calm amidst the rush. During the Warring States period, there was a man named Mengchang Jun who had over 3,000 guests in his house. Among them was Feng Huyen, a talented individual whom Mengchang Jun sent to the city of Tiet to collect debts. However, upon arriving in Tiet, Feng Huyen not only failed to collect the debts, but also burned the debt records, declaring that Mengchang Jun had forgiven everyone's debts. The people of Tiet were deeply grateful. Later, when King Qi found a reason to expel Mengchang Jun, he had to return to his fief in Tiet. Unexpectedly, he was warmly welcomed by the people there, Only then did he realize that Feng Huyan's burning of the debt records was a deeply strategic act, intended to prevent future trouble. In daily life, if we can look ahead and plan wisely, we can turn dangers into peace and disasters into blessings. 71. Refusing gifts. Being a government official like Kong Nagihu was truly honorable. Even with something as trivial as a fish, he considered not accepting it. He understood that pleasing people temporarily cannot compare to the long-term strategy of valuing oneself. Kong Nagihu was a general in the state of Lu and liked eating fish. One day, someone offered him a fish as a gift, but he refused to accept it. His brother was surprised and asked, "You like fish, and someone is offering it to you. Why wouldn't you accept it?" Kong Gihu replied, "If someone gives you a gift, they probably expect something in return. If I accept it, I might owe them a favor. Doing a favor could lead to breaking the law, and then I might lose my position. Losing my position would mean not only no more gifted fish, but not being able to buy fish either. Therefore, I refuse the fish because I want to ensure I can continue to eat fish for a long time." There's an old saying by Lao Tzu, "By putting oneself last, one finds oneself in the lead. By detaching oneself, one can preserve oneself." Isn't that because by not being selfish, one can truly fulfill one's desires? 72. Perception and reality. The tale of Tai Ong and the mysterious music. In everyday life, we often see things differently based on our perspectives. Everything in the world, including human relationships and worldly matters, appears distinct when viewed through a common lens. However, when viewed from a transcendent perspective, everything seems uniformly normal. Why should there be any need for distinction or choice? During the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a wise scholar and famous calligrapher named Tai Ung. He lived during the time of the Tran Liu era. One day, a neighbor invited him over for a drink. Busy with his work, Tai Ung lost track of time and arrived late to find the party in full swing, with lively music playing. Curious, he listened from the next room without entering and was surprised. The music sounded ominously like it foretold death. Feeling uneasy, he quietly left. The host was informed of his brief appearance and rushed after him to find out why he left so abruptly. Tai Ung explained his feelings. Everyone was puzzled, but the musician explained that he had been distracted by a scene involving an insect chasing another, which might have influenced the mood of his music. Tai Ung joked that the musician's heartfelt expression and the music resonated together, leading to this misunderstanding. This incident shows Tai Ung's remarkable intuition and profound understanding. 73. Doing nothing at all can be the most relaxing. Fishing is usually a leisurely activity that surprisingly involves life and death decisions. Playing chess is a fun, light-hearted game that also involves intense psychological warfare to win. Therefore, doing less can help people feel more relaxed and at ease. Being average rather than multi-talented helps preserve one's true nature. In the Jin dynasty, there were 3 brothers named Chu Kai, Chu Tung, and Chu Fak. Their mother, a kind and gentle woman, lost her husband during troubled times and single-handedly brought her 3 sons from the north to the south, teaching them to become good people. As they grew up, the brothers deeply appreciated their mother's kindness and respected her greatly. One winter, during a meal, their mother poured each a glass of wine and then tearfully said, "Mother has endured much hardship in her life, but seeing you all grown up makes me hope to rely on you for the rest of my days." Hearing this, Chu Tung put down his wine glass, knelt at his mother's feet, and wept. Shocked, his mother asked why he was crying. He replied, "Mother just said she hopes to rely on us in her later years, but my brother Chu Kai and I often compete and show off our talents, which might endanger our lives. Only our brother Chu Fak is calm and gentle, and he won't bring disaster upon himself. Perhaps only Chu Pak will be able to take care of you in your old age." Later, Chu Kai and Chu Tong were indeed killed by others. After their deaths, Chu Fak alone took care of their elderly mother.
If you like this video, please comment 1, and if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
74. Living Freely, the story of Kai Kong, a sage beyond desires. When you don't desire fame or material wealth, your mind becomes as clear as the autumn sky and as expansive as the ocean. Having musical instruments and books during leisure time is like living freely and comfortably in a magical mountain retreat. Kai Kong, a writer, thinker, and musician from the Wei State during the Three Kingdoms era, came from a family deeply rooted in Confucian traditions, but preferred the teachings of Laozi and Zhuangzi. He despised rigid Confucian rituals and advocated living according to nature. Disillusioned with the powerful political figure Sima Zhao, he left his official position to become a blacksmith in his hometown. There, he spent his days drinking, playing music, reading, writing poetry, and living a carefree life like a sage. Once, when Sima Zhao's trusted strategist Zhong Hui visited, Kai Kong continued his blacksmithing without formal greetings, showing his disregard for status and material desires. 75. Wealth comes and goes like drifting clouds, and some find joy in poetry and wine. People who see wealth as fleeting don't need to retreat to mountains to cultivate their spirits. On the other hand, those who aren't drawn to nature often indulge in writing poetry and drinking wine, getting carried away in their passions, merely chasing after empty fame. During the Three Kingdoms period in the state of Wei, there was a thinker named Nguyen Teach who aspired to help the world. However, he was born during the chaotic times between the Wei and Western Jin dynasties, when it was hard for notable scholars to survive. Therefore, Nguyen Teach chose not to engage in political affairs, often drinking and singing to preserve his life. Emperor Wen of Jin, Sima Zhao, wanted to propose a marriage between his son, Emperor Wu, Sima Yan, and Nguyen Teach's daughter. Nguyen Teach immersed himself in drinking for 60 days, and Sima Zhao never found the chance to speak to him about it and had to give up. The Wei official, Zhong Hui, frequently questioned Nguyen Teach about current political issues, hoping to criticize him based on his opinions. Nguyen Teach always found a way to stay drunk to avoid misfortune. Although he was an official, Nguyen Teach didn't care to discuss politics, and in his later years, he expressed his thoughts and feelings through poetry and wine, living like a hermit in the city. 76. The Transformative Power of Mercy, the tale of Han Guo and Dian Jia. Spring breezes nourish all life, while northern snows can be deadly. A person with a generous and forgiving heart is like a warm spring breeze that nurtures all things, helping them to grow and thrive. In contrast, a person with a cold and harsh nature is like a bitter north wind that brings freezing cold, causing everything to wither and die. Han Guo, during the Western Han dynasty, had studied Han Feizi and various other philosophies from a young age. He had worked for King Liang and held the position of a senior official, and was highly trusted and favored by the king. However, due to circumstances, Han Guo was imprisoned. The prison warden, Dian Jia, frequently humiliated him. Han Guo once remarked, "Can't ashes catch fire again?" Mockingly, Dian Jia responded, "If ashes could reignite, I would urinate on them to put it out." Later, When King Liang needed Han and Guo's services again due to a lack of capable officials, Dian Jia panicked and fled into the wilderness. Han and Guo declared, "If Dian Jia no longer holds office, his entire family line will be destroyed." With no options left, Dian Jia had to return and face his punishment. Han and Guo then said, "Today, you can urinate all you want, but a petty person like you is not worth my revenge." Dian Jia was deeply ashamed and could no longer face people. 77. Preserve integrity to honor the natural world. Maintain a good reputation for all to remember. People should live honestly, embracing their natural simplicity and rejecting cunning and deceit, to remain pure and return to nature. It's better to resist the temptations of luxury and opulence, and to live a simple, peaceful life to keep one's reputation unblemished. During the Northern Song dynasty, there was a famous official known for greatly benefiting the people, skilled in law and fearless of power. Known to everyone from children to elders as Bao Zheng, he was a famously upright official in Chinese history. He strictly enforced the law and once presented 6 memorials detailing the crimes of Zhang Yaozuo, an uncle of the emperor's favorite concubine, who was promoted against the regulations. Unlawful actions couldn't escape Bao Zheng's scrutiny. At the end of his life, he set up a stone stele in his house inscribed with family instructions on integrity, meaning that any descendant who took bribes would not be considered part of his family. His story is still told among the people, and his integrity and reputation continue to be honored for generations. 78. Inner self-observation reveals true passions. In the quiet of the night, sit silently and delve deep into your soul. Initially, you may not sense any dark thoughts, but instead, reveal the true nature of your character. Such moments bring deeper understanding of life's meanings. However, this revelation of one's true nature is temporary. Dark thoughts linger and eventually resurface, leaving you feeling deeply ashamed. During the Warring States period, a general from the state of Tong Xiao recognized the goodness and talent in a man named Man. As Tong Xiao neared death, he advised his son, "After I die, you will face hard times. If you meet Man, tell him you are my son." Years later, enduring extreme poverty, the son, who had to gather wood for a living, met Man and relayed his father's words. Once, at a banquet hosted by King Trong, Man, impersonating Tong Xiao, stepped forward to offer a toast. The king was startled, thinking Tong Xiao had returned from the dead and wanted to appoint him as a general. Man declined, saying, "Tong Xiao served the state of so loyally and helped the king gain supremacy. Now he has passed away, and his son has no refuge, just like Tong Xiao's fate. It would have been better to end it all from the start." Touched by this, King Trong awarded Tong Xiao's son land for 400 households. Man, by impersonating Tong Xiao, earned the king's affection, but his aim was solely to relieve the son from his dire situation, with no thought of personal gain. 79. The perils of undeserved gains. Gains that aren't rightfully ours can often lead to downfall. These unwarranted benefits might seem like a stroke of luck or even a setup by fate, but more likely they are traps set by others. In such situations, without a broad perspective, many can't escape these snares. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, Governor Yang Su of Lujiang, when he first took office, encountered a prevalent custom of giving gifts. Determined to end this corrupt practice, Yang Su repeatedly refused to accept a gift of fish from a subordinate. When the subordinate insisted, Yang Su hung the fish under the eaves until it rotted and dried out under the sun. Yangsu's exemplary leadership gradually reduced the old custom of gift-giving in Lujiang. His actions demonstrate that to combat or eliminate the tangled web of bribery, one must act with integrity and determination, refusing to partake in or benefit from corrupt practices. 80. Wealth requires generosity, wisdom demands humility. Those who are wealthy should treat others with kindness and generosity. If they are harsh and critical, their behavior makes them no different from the ignorant and poor, and how can they fully enjoy the joy and happiness that life offers? Similarly, intelligent and talented people should be humble and conceal their abilities. Boasting about their intelligence makes it no different from ignorance, and how can they avoid failure? During the spring and autumn period, Duke Wen of Wei was a benevolent and wise king who treated everyone sincerely, whether they were from another state, a wealthy family, or the common people. It is said that he heard of Duan Kan Mu, a wise man living quietly in his hometown of Shiha, who was not tempted by wealth. The Duke personally went to see him. Riding in his splendid, noisy carriage, the Duke knocked on Duan Kan Mu's door, but Duan hid from him. The next morning, Duke Wen stopped his carriage near the village and walked to meet Duan, who still avoided him. Duke Wen lamented, "Truly a hermit who seeks no fame or fortune." For a month he visited daily. Moved by the Duke's sincerity, Duan finally agreed to meet him. Duke Wen welcomed him to the capital, treating him with great respect and honor. News of this spread, and scholars from all over came to seek the Duke's patronage, thus enriching his court with talented people. 81. Bias harms others, while intelligence can obstruct. Fame and desire might not necessarily corrupt one's character. However, rigid biases and believing oneself to be always right can damage one's soul. Similarly, being enamored with beauty and indulgence doesn't fully impact a person's moral integrity, but thinking oneself superior and disregarding others can seriously hinder ethical behavior. During the Qin dynasty, Prime Minister Li Si fell victim to the treacherous Zhao Gao. Zhao Gao tortured him brutally, and Li Si could no longer endure it, forced to admit false accusations. Despite this, Li Si still deluded himself into thinking he was clever, sending a petition to the emperor to defend himself. However, Zhao Gao hid the petition, preventing the emperor from seeing it, and continued to ruthlessly beat Li Si to ensure his silence. The emperor didn't personally investigate the true details of the case, only listening to and believing Zhao Gao's biased words. When the final verdict was presented, the emperor joyfully said, "If it weren't for Master Zhao, I would have been deceived by Li Si." Consequently, the emperor ordered Li Si to be executed and displayed publicly in Xianyang. Following this event, the emperor continued to trust and follow Zhao Gao's advice, ultimately leading to his own demise at Zhao Gao's hands. Indeed, intelligence can be self-destructive, and biases can harm others. Proving that intelligence can obstruct the moral path is indeed true. 82. Conquering evil with a calm mind, maintaining self-control to stay composed. To convince someone who is morally astray, you must first conquer the malevolent thoughts in your own heart. By completely ridding yourself of these malicious thoughts, the fierce demons will naturally disappear. If you wish to overcome actions that go against proper conduct and discipline, you must first control your own sudden outbursts of anger. By restraining your impulsive emotions, deceptive situations from the outside won't be able to intrude easily. During the spring and autumn period, Confucius often led his students on travels through various feudal states to explain his political ideas, hoping these states would adopt them. Once, when Confucius visited the state of Wei, he was not valued by Duke Ling of Wei and thus left for the state of Chen. Upon arriving in Chen, their provisions ran out and everyone following him was hungry, some falling ill and unable to continue walking. Tzu Lu, in a fit of anger, approached Confucius and asked, "Can even a gentleman face extreme hardship?" Confucius replied, "A true gentleman can control his anger, subdue the wicked thoughts deep within himself, and remain composed in times of extreme hardship. On the other hand, a petty person, when facing hardship, is dominated by malevolent thoughts and can stoop to do anything." 83. A person of integrity avoids disaster by not committing unseen errors. If the liver is ill, it shows as blindness. If the kidneys ail, deafness may follow. Symptoms might be invisible at first but will eventually become apparent. Thus, a person of good character who doesn't want their faults exposed should avoid small, hard-to-notice mistakes. During the spring and autumn period, the state of so presented Duke Ling of Zheng a turtle. At that time, a powerful minister named Zigong wanted to meet with Duke Ling. Upon seeing the turtle, Zigong pointed it out to his companions and said, "One day, with a snap of my fingers, I could taste this delicacy." Later, when the turtle was about to be cooked in the palace, Zigong laughed aloud. Duke Ling asked why, and Zigong explained the situation. When it was time to eat, Duke Ling called Zigong over but did not allow him to eat. Angry, Zigong dipped his finger in the pot, tasted it, and walked away. Zigong felt humiliated by Duke Ling, which made him harbor thoughts of revenge. Eventually, Duke Ling was assassinated because of this seemingly minor but crucial oversight. 84. Honor and wealth come from good character. If one's status and wealth are gained through promoting virtue and personal development, it will flourish like wildflowers on a mountain slope, naturally growing strong and enduring. However, if these are achieved through deceit or violence, they will quickly wither like flowers placed in a vase without roots. During the Three Kingdoms period, a man named Guan Ning lived reclusively in a deep mountain area. The only well there was difficult to access, and people often fought over water. Distressed by this, Guan Ning bought many water barrels and secretly filled them at the well for others to use. When the locals discovered his act, they were amazed and began to reflect on their actions, leading to peace among them. From then on, the community around the well lived harmoniously. Once, a neighbor's ox trampled on Guan Ning's seedlings. Instead of driving the ox away, Guan Ning, fearing it might be attacked by wild animals without a herder, led it to a shady spot to rest, drink, and eat. He even took better care of it than its owner. When the owner found the ox, he was deeply moved by Guan Ning's kindness and generosity, which inspired the local people to aspire to higher moral standards. 85. Strategic wisdom and loyalty in ancient Qi. The tale of Guanzhong and his friends. Repair your roof before it rains and you'll be prepared for any disaster. During your free time, don't let it pass idly. Instead, use the time to prepare for busier days. When calm, keep your mind engaged to easily adapt to changes comfortably. In solitude, avoid doing wrong, as your integrity will naturally earn respect in public. In the spring and autumn period, 3 close friends, Guanzhong, Bao Shuya, and Zhao Shuo, were important officials in the state of Qi. When discussing the succession of the Qi throne, Zhao Shuo believed that Prince Ju was the suitable successor and suggested they support him. However, Guanzhong thought differently, noting that there were 2 princes, Prince Ju, who was supported by his mother but disliked by many, and Prince Xiaobai, who was pitied by the people after his mother's death. It was hard to predict the eventual heir, so Guanzhong proposed that Bao Shuya support Prince Xiaobai, while he and Zhao Shuo would support Prince Ju. Eventually, Prince Xiaobai killed Prince Ju and claimed the throne, even targeting Guanzhong. Fortunately, Bao Shuya's support saved Guanzhong from harm, and he ended up being appointed as the prime minister. By carefully planning his support, Guanzhong effectively prevented disaster. If all had supported Prince Ju without considering Prince Xiaobai, they wouldn't have been able to navigate the situation as smoothly. Idle planning for busy times and thoughtful reflection in calm moments can help avert misfortune. Guanzhong and his friends did not deceive each other, earning them high respect and trust.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
86. When you follow a righteous path, the road ahead seems wide and expansive. Putting in effort opens up your mind and soul. Pursuing a crooked, selfish path feels incredibly narrow and fraught with difficulties that become apparent only when it's too late. During the spring and autumn period, a student of Confucius named Zi Gong passed by an old man who was laboriously watering his garden with a large jug. Zi Gong said to the old man, "If you used a machine to water, you could easily irrigate 100 plots in a day with little effort and high efficiency. Why don't you use one?" The old man looked up and asked, "What kind of machine is that?" Zi Gong explained, "It's made from cutting wood. It's heavier at the back and lighter in front, and it can pump water very quickly from the well. It's called a water lever." The old man's face changed as he said, "I've heard that those who use machines tend to resort to cunning tricks, and those who resort to tricks tend to harbor deceitful thoughts. With deceitful thoughts, one cannot maintain purity of heart. When the heart isn't pure, the mind becomes unstable, and an unstable mind makes it easier to veer from the straight path. It's not that I don't know about the water lever. I'm just ashamed to use it." Zigong felt deeply ashamed and bowed his head, unable to say another word. 87. If the heart remains fair, external foes will not prevail. Listening to sweet words and seeing beautiful things can be tempting. The allure of the external world often acts like invaders or agents from the outside. Emotions and desires are like hidden enemies within a person's soul. Keeping a clear, upright mind, resisting temptations, and maintaining a pure inner self can transform these feelings and impulses into helpful tools that nurture moral integrity. A prominent scholar official of the Southern Song dynasty, Wen Tianxiang, was the last prime minister of the Southern Song dynasty, born into a wealthy and influential family. In 1275, when the Mongol forces launched a massive attack on the Southern Song, breaking through their defenses along the Yangtze River, the royal court issued a decree to mobilize the country's forces against the Mongols. Wen Tianxiang immediately donated his family's wealth to the military expenses and recruited local heroes to form an army of over 10,000 men, marching close to Linan. While negotiating at the Mongol camp, he was captured. The Mongol agents forced Wen Tianxiang to kneel before their marshal. Wen resisted, struggled, and sat down, refusing to submit, and declared, "I am willing to die for justice, and imprisonment does not frighten me." Consequently, he was imprisoned for 3 years. During his imprisonment, he received a letter from his daughter, Lu Niang, informing him that his wife and daughters were now servants in the palace, living as criminals. Wen understood his daughter's letter as an indirect message from the Mongol court. Surrender, and your family will be reunited. Even though the pain was unbearable, Wen refused to lose his honor for the sake of his family. Later, he was taken to the execution ground and asked, "Which way is the south?" Someone directed him, and Wen faced south, knelt, and said, "My deeds are done, and my heart holds no shame." He then bravely faced his execution, dying with serenity. 88. Cultivating qualities, avoiding bias. One's character should be noble and generous, yet not overly reckless. Thinking must be careful and detailed, but not petty or chaotic. Interests should be refined and modest, yet not too dull or boring. Integrity must be strict and upright, but not stubborn or inflexible. At the end of the Qin dynasty, Xiang Yu, the king of Western Chu, led a peasant rebellion that shook and eventually toppled the brutal rule of the Qin dynasty, becoming a hero admired by all. However, when Xiang Yu broke through enemy lines at Kaixia and was pursued by thousands of Han soldiers to a desperate situation, knowing he could not escape, he remained arrogantly proud. He shared his feelings with his followers, reminiscing and boasting about his glorious victories and undefeated battles over the past 8 years. Xiang Yu's pride and arrogance persisted until his death, maintaining the mistaken belief that victory was due to his own martial prowess, while defeat was arranged by the heavens. His great spirit, though impressive, was too rigid and ultimately cost this young hero his life, while his biased and narrow-minded pride destroyed the great legacy of a hero. 89. Self-sacrifice should be unhesitant, and giving should expect no return. When you make a sacrifice, don't be calculative about what you gain or lose and hesitate indecisively, as that makes the sacrifice shameful. If you do a good deed for others, don't expect anything in return, otherwise, the value of your kindness diminishes. During the Tang dynasty, a famous general named Tong Xiao was appointed as the commander in Guangzhou. After a period of excellent political service, he was promoted to prime minister by the imperial court. The officials and citizens of Guangzhou felt honored and prepared to erect a monument to commend his achievements. However, when Tong Xiao learned about the locals' intentions, he was not pleased but rather worried. He insisted to the emperor to forbid these actions, saying, "I have only carried out my duties in Guangzhou as assigned by the imperial court and have not achieved any remarkable feats. Now, as I take the role of prime minister, the people are preparing to flatter me with a monument, which is truly a bad practice. To prevent such bad habits from taking root, please start by stopping me." The emperor accepted Tong Xiao's advice and stopped the locals from erecting the monument. Tong Xiao lived a life of virtue among the people, never seeking reward or calculating loss and gain, earning respect for his noble reputation. 90. Integrity Triumphs, the tale of Wei Yuanzhang, and the inescapable net of fate. Destiny is truly mysterious and cannot be outsmarted. Those who uphold their principles with perseverance might not seek rewards, yet fate often fulfills their deepest desires. Conversely, the cunning might try to escape their due punishment, but fate takes away their wisdom in their flight, leaving them powerless. This shows that the profound mysteries of fate govern and guide us, making mere human intelligence seem insignificant in comparison. During the reign of Empress Wu Zetian, there was an official named Wei Yuanzhang who was known for his honesty and integrity. He distanced himself from flatterers and sycophants. However, he was falsely accused of plotting a rebellion leading to his imprisonment. The cruel interrogator, Hao Sijui, tried to force him to confess using severe torture. Despite the brutal treatment, Wei Yuanzhang refused to admit any guilt, further infuriating Hao Sijui. In his rage, Hao Sijui ordered his men to drag Wei Yuanzhang across the ground, causing his face to bleed terribly. But Wei Yuanzhang did not yield and continued to berate Hao Sijui. Unable to contain his anger, Hao Sijui intensified the punishment, dragging him over a rocky and bloody path. Wei Yuanzhang sternly warned Hao Sijui, saying, "The net of heaven is vast and inescapable. you will face divine retribution for your cruel actions. Eventually, House Zhui had to report to the imperial court that there was no evidence for Wei Yuanzhang's alleged conspiracy, leading to his demotion and exile far from the capital. House Zhui himself was later dismissed by Empress Wu Zetian for his cruelty. This story reminds us that man's plans are no match for those of heaven, and questions whether mere cleverness is worthy of respect compared to the true talent and integrity shown by Wei Yuanzhang. 91. Abusing power, leading to one's own destruction. People who grow up in wealthy and powerful families often have desires as intense as a blazing fire, and their power flickers like flames on their bodies. Even if the flames of desire and power do not consume others, they will eventually burn and harm themselves. During the Zhou dynasty, there was a cruel and corrupt king named King Zhou of Shang. He had a beautiful concubine named Bao Si, who never smiled. To make her smile, King Zhou devised a plan to set fire to the territories of his vassals. One evening at dusk, he took Bao Si to the top of the city gate tower and ordered fires to be lit in all directions. The neighboring vassals saw the fires and thought they were being attacked by a Western tribe. They rushed their troops to help, but when they arrived and saw the bright lights and festive atmosphere on the tower, they realized it was just a senseless joke by King Zhou to make Bao Si smile. The vassals were furious but dared not express it, and they reluctantly withdrew their forces. Bao Si finally gave a faint smile when she saw the situation. However, not long after, the Western tribe really did invade, and despite the fires, no one came to help because the vassals thought King Zhou was just repeating his joke. As a result, the capital of Western Zhou was captured, and King Zhou was killed. King Zhou's misuse of power led to the downfall of his dynasty. 92. Don't get too excited about good fortune or too worried about bad times. When facing adversity, people often resort to traditional remedies like medicine and acupuncture, always correcting their mistakes and refining their character. However, in times of prosperity, despite potential dangers being as numerous as swords around them, people often fail to see these threats, gradually eroding their willpower and becoming completely unaware. The famous Qing dynasty scholar Cao Xueqin, originally named John and also known as Xueqin, was known for his generous nature and fondness for drinking. He was also a man of many talents, skilled in poetry and painting. Born into a privileged family, Cao Xueqin spent his early years in luxury. Later, his family fell out of favor and lost their wealth, plunging him into poverty. However, this hardship did not defeat him. Instead, it provided him an opportunity to enjoy the pleasures of a simpler life, close to nature and peace. Every morning he would practice swordsmanship in the forest, then return home to write at his old desk, surrounded by familiar characters that inspired him to write continuously. He always carried pen and paper with him and would write down any scenario that struck him as worth including in his books. This relentless dedication led Cao Xueqin to complete his famous novel, Dream of the Red Chamber, a timeless masterpiece of Chinese literature. 93. Legacy of Kindness, a tale of ancient wisdom and unexpected rewards. 1. Both kindness and resentment should be forgotten. Neither favors nor grudges should be remembered. All resentment comes from acts of goodness, leading some to be grateful and others to resent. Performing acts of kindness should make others grateful to us just as much as it makes them forget all praises and resentments. All grudges stem from favors, so giving favors should make others know us as much as it makes them forget those favors and grudges. 2. During the spring and autumn period in the state of Jin, there was a respected man named Wei Wuzi. He had a favored concubine who was unable to bear him a son. When Wei Wuzi fell ill and felt his end was near, he entrusted all his affairs to his son Wei Kuo, telling him, "After I die, let her be buried with me." After Wei Wuzi passed away, Wei Kuo did not follow through with the burial request for the still living girl. Instead, he arranged a new marriage for her. Later, in a critical battle against the army of the state of Qin, led by the famous general Du Hui, when Wei Kuo was nearly overwhelmed, an old man suddenly appeared in front of the troops and captured Du Hui, leading to Jin's victory. That night, Wei Kuo dreamed of the old man who said, "General, do you remember saving a girl's life? I am her father, and I came here to repay your kindness." 94. Put down the scalpel and you might just become a saint. When people are angry, outraged, or craving something, they often can't control themselves. They know it's wrong, but they do it anyway. Who understands this principle, and who knowingly violates it? If one can calm down at this moment, identify the core issues and the mistakes made, a sudden realization can change one's thoughts. Then, even the most evil deeds can turn into acts of kindness and compassion. During the Warring States period, King Xiao of Chu planned to invade Vietnam. A senior official named Do Tu advised him, "What has Vietnam done to offend you?" King Xiao replied, "Vietnam's politics are chaotic and its military is weak. This is a good opportunity to attack." Du Tu responded, "I worry about the consequences of this action. A person's knowledge is like their eyes. They can see things 100 steps away but fail to see their own eyelashes. Your army was heavily defeated in the states of Qin and Jin, losing hundreds of miles of land, showing your military weakness. Your inability to quickly suppress the rebellion in your own country shows political chaos. To think of attacking Vietnam with these issues is to see the faults in others and not your own." Persuaded by Do Tu, King Xiao decided against attacking Vietnam. Du Tu's words were like a splash of cold water that woke the king up and saved many lives from potential disaster. 95. With knowledge and determination, selfishness will vanish. Some people believe that without strong willpower, it is impossible to overcome the constant demands of self-interest and the need to restrain desires. Others think that while they recognize the dangers of greed, they can't resist its temptations. In reality, intelligence is a gem that lights up the hiding places of evil spirits, and strong will is a sharp sword that eliminates these spirits. Therefore, to control one's desires, one must have either intelligence or willpower. During the Warring States period, there was a man from the state of Song named Tao Shang. He once received a royal command to go on a mission to the state of Qin and was appointed as Ta Lin Xing. He was also gifted several chariots. The king of Qin welcomed him warmly and gave him hundreds of chariots. Upon returning to Song, Tao Shang met Zhuangzi and boasted, "Back then, living in poverty at the market, dragging through days in despair, that was my weakness. But this year, just by using my tongue to persuade, I got hundreds of chariots. That's my strength." Zhuangzi mocked him, saying, "I heard the king of Qin was ill, and the doctors who treat the most disgusting diseases get the most rewards, like 1 chariot for draining a sore, 5 for licking a hemorrhoid. It seems you must have done the latter to receive so many chariots. Better move along." 96. The unstoppable vitality of nature. When everything is silent and still, the sound of birds chirping can stir up feelings of inspiration. Likewise, when flowers and grass have withered and dried up, spotting a single flower blooming powerfully can move the soul and awaken boundless vitality. It's evident that the essence of all things does not completely fade away. Life always persists, continually growing and blossoming. Yan Zhu, a famous poet from the Northern Song dynasty, was very intelligent and loved learning from a young age. When he was young, the emperor appointed him as a scholar. Once, while serving as an official on his way to Hangzhou, he passed through Zhuanyang and stopped at the Daiming Temple. There, he saw a poem written on the wall that he thought was exceptionally good. Someone told him, "This is a poem by the magistrate Wang Qi." Yan Zhu then invited Wang Qi to dine with him, and after their meal, they took a walk by the lake. It was late spring, and many flowers were falling on the lake's surface. Touched by the beautiful scene, Yan Zhu spontaneously composed a line of poetry. "How can the flowers not fall?" Wang Qi responded with a verse. "As if they know each other, the swallows return." Yan Zhu praised this line highly, which made him respect Wang Qi even more. 97. Hardship and poverty can strengthen both body and mind. Unexpected disasters and dire situations can act as a forge for heroes. If one can endure this toughening process, it can be incredibly beneficial for both health and mind. However, if not, it could cause significant harm. Around 1300 BC in China, there was a man named Fo Thuyet. Although he was of low status and a slave, he was naturally intelligent and sharp-witted. Despite his hardships, he gained more knowledge and became even more courageous and clear-headed. Legend has it that one day Wu Din, a new ruler searching for talents among the people, met Fo Thuyet. Struck by his extraordinary demeanor, Wu Din struck up a conversation. Fo Thuyet engaged him in discussions ranging from ancient to modern times, mixing in humor that greatly impressed Wu Din. Consequently, Wu Din set aside societal prejudices and appointed Fo Thuyet as his prime minister, tasking him with supporting the state's political affairs. Fo Thuyet introduced several excellent political measures, reducing conflicts among the royal lineage, the state, and slaves. This improved the political landscape, ensured peace and prosperity, and facilitated the completion of many pending projects. 98. The human heart can be treacherous and spiritual understanding is deeply hidden. The quiet hours from midnight to dawn are when people begin to fall deep into sleep. Early in the morning, as everyone wakes up from a long sleep and the world is still not fully awake, that's when we are most clear-minded. If one can use these moments to purify the soul and reflect on one's actions, it becomes clear that our senses, sight, hearing, smell, and taste, are tools that bind our minds, and sexual desires are machines that lead us astray. After the establishment of the Qing dynasty, although many people presented memorials to the Qing emperor, none advised him to diligently study. The principles of ruling that governed the times were contained in the 4 books. So Shen Wenkui, a contemporary official, presented a memorial stating, "In the deep quiet of the night and the clear-minded moments of early morning upon awakening are when a person's mind is most lucid. Your Majesty should have someone teach 2 chapters from the 4 books and 1 from the comprehensive mirror daily. Study these methods of governance, learn from the experiences of cultivating oneself, managing family, governing the country, and pacifying the world as the ancient sages did. By accumulating knowledge daily and applying it personally, Your Majesty will undoubtedly achieve excellent results." After reviewing his memorial, the Qing emperor highly praised Shen Wenkui and decided to follow his method, which indeed proved effective. In his spare time from handling state affairs, the emperor would recite the 4 books and comprehensive mirror, calm his senses, reflect on himself, and maintain such a clear mind that he felt joyful and refreshed. 99. Avoid doing evil and strive to do good. People who regularly reflect on themselves can turn any situation into an opportunity for clarity and improvement. On the other hand, Those who constantly blame others and the world often harm themselves with their negative thoughts. There's a clear difference between the path of righteousness and the origins of evil deeds. During the Warring States period, King Meng of the state of Lu went hunting in the mountains with his entourage, including the wise Qin Shi Ba. During the hunt, King Meng captured a charming young deer and ordered Qin Shi Ba to take it back to the palace first. On the way back, Qin Shi Ba noticed a large deer following them, crying out in distress. Realizing it was the mother of the young deer, Qin Shi Ba, unable to bear separating the family, released the young deer. When King Meng learned about this, he was furious and banished Qin Shi Ba from the palace. A year later, when it was time for King Meng's son to start his education, King Meng wanted to find a good teacher for him. He remembered Qin Shi Ba's compassionate act and felt enlightened. He immediately ordered his men to find Qin Shi Ba and invited him back to the palace to be the teacher of the crown prince. The courtiers didn't understand King Meng's decision and asked, "Qin Shi Ba once released the deer you cherished, and you punished him. Why invite him back to teach the crown prince now?" King Meng smiled and said, "Qin Shi Ba is not only knowledgeable but also has a kind heart. He showed compassion even towards a deer, choosing to take the blame himself rather than harm the mother-child relationship of the animals. That's why I am confident in having him as the teacher for the crown prince." 100. Finding peace and joy in simplicity. The inspiring tale of Pham Trong Yem. Clouds pass and the moon shines bright. Dust wiped away reveals a clear mirror. A still water surface naturally becomes calm. A dust-free mirror naturally shines clear. Thus, people do not need to exhaust themselves searching for inner peace. Just remove negative, dark thoughts and naturally, clarity and tranquility will follow. There's no need to strive for happiness. Just distance oneself from sorrow and worry, and joy will naturally appear. Pham Trong Yem, a political and literary figure from the Northern Song dynasty, came from a poor family and couldn't afford schooling. He asked to study under a monk and lived on porridge and wild greens picked from the roadside. The parents of his classmates, empathizing with his plight, gave him meat and wine. When they visited a few days later, they found the meat and wine untouched and smelling. When asked why, Pham Trong Yem said, "It's not that I'm ungrateful for the kindness, but I'm used to eating simple food without feeling miserable. If I start craving these luxuries, how will I continue to endure hardship?" Pham Trong Yem chose to find joy in hardship, which later led to his remarkable career. 101. Not cultivating virtues only leads to resorting to lowly tactics. Being honorable and having integrity can lead to greater success than even the highest official positions or more captivating than the famous tale of Snow White. However, without maintaining ethical standards throughout, it all just boils down to shallow personal feelings and a display of low tactics, merely showing off skills. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, there was a man named Fan Zhong, known for his thriftiness, philanthropy, and generosity. Fan Zhong managed his household strictly, ensuring that generations lived harmoniously and everyone worked hard, leading to a well-known wealthy status. He also often donated money to help the poor and was appointed as a local official to oversee moral education. Embarrassed by a lawsuit between two brothers in his hometown over their inheritance, Fan Zhong settled the dispute by giving them parts of his own land. He often lent money, and when he was dying, he instructed his son to burn all the debt records. The debtors, feeling ashamed, came forward to repay their debts, but his son, following his father's wishes, firmly refused to accept the repayments. 102. Strive to be unusual but not odd. Aim for nobility but not extremism. Those who rise above the ordinary are considered remarkable. However, if someone tries too hard to stand out, they're not remarkable but rather bizarre. A person who avoids wrongdoing is honorable. But if they boast about their purity by completely cutting off from society, they are not noble but extreme. During the spring and autumn period, a renowned general from the state of Jin, General Qi Huangyang, requested to retire in his old age. When the Duke of Jin, Duke Du Kong, asked him to recommend a successor, Qi Huangyang did not hesitate to nominate Jie Hu despite him being his enemy. When questioned by the Duke, Qi explained, "Your Majesty asked me who is capable of handling this important duty, not who my enemies are." After Ji Hu's death, the Duke again asked Qi to recommend a capable person. This time, Qi nominated his own son, Qi Ngo. When the Duke pointed out the nominee was his son, Qi replied, "Your Majesty asked me to recommend someone virtuous and capable of big responsibilities, not that I couldn't recommend my own son." Qi Huangyang was praised for selecting capable individuals without bias against enemies or favoritism towards relatives, truly serving his country with integrity.
If you like this video, please comment 1, and if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
103. Integrity and Harmony, the story of Liu Dingxiu's commitment. A person who embodies virtues and has a valuable character might face ridicule if they boast about their integrity or get criticized if they flaunt their morals and education. Therefore, a true gentleman who has not done anything wrong should not seek fame or recognition. It is most valuable to simply be honest and kind, and to maintain harmony in dealings with others. Liu Dingxiu, from the Song dynasty, was originally a farmer. His neighbor had a daughter who was betrothed to him. Later, Liu pursued his studies and was away for many years. After his exams, he returned home, wanting to honor the marriage commitment with the neighbor's daughter. By then, she was poor, ill, and had poor eyesight. Her family wanted to call off the engagement, but Liu insisted on keeping his promise despite her illness. They married and had a very harmonious life. Later, when Liu committed a minor offense, his superior commended his moral character and excused him from punishment. 104. In the muddy water, both good and evil are contained. When dealing with people, one should not be too strict. Embrace even the bad, oppressive, and humiliating things. Living alongside others requires tolerance and acceptance of both the virtuous and the wicked, the wise and the foolish. The strong and lasting friendship between Guanzhong and Bao Shuya has become a beautiful story passed down through generations in Chinese history. As Guanzhong was nearing death, Duke Huan of Qi asked him who could succeed him as the prime minister. Guanzhong did not recommend Bao Shuya, saying, "Bao Shuya is kind and moral, but he is too harsh on evil, viewing it as his enemy. A man too critical has no friends, just as water too clear has no fish. Therefore, he is not suitable for the role of prime minister." Later, some deceitful people relayed this story to Bao Shuya, intending to drive a wedge between the two men. Unexpectedly, Bao Shuya responded, "Guanzhong is absolutely right. He put public duties over personal feelings, which is why I recommended him. If I were prime minister, I would first eliminate all you deceitful people." Embarrassed by this, the deceitful people left in shame. 105. Avoid being too self-righteous and steer clear of overly impulsive emotions. High and rugged mountains don't support the growth of trees, whereas in winding, twisting valleys, lush greenery flourishes. In fast-flowing rivers, fish don't thrive, but in calm, still waters, fish and shrimp prosper abundantly. Overly sanctimonious behavior and extreme bias are things that a virtuous person should avoid displaying. Liu Quan, a famous minister during the Eastern Han Dynasty, was a very humble and gentle man, known for treating others with great tolerance and generosity. His wife, fully aware of his virtues, often sought opportunities to provoke him to anger, just to test the extent of his kindness. One day, Liu Quan was in a hurry to meet the emperor and had dressed in his clean official robes. His wife suggested he have a bowl of soup before leaving and instructed the servants accordingly. As a servant handed him the soup, they accidentally spilled it all over his clothes. Liu Quan remained calm and simply asked, "Did the soup burn your hand?" His wife, seeing that he was not angered, deeply admired his patience and generosity. 106. Not worrying in adversity, not fearing the powerful. A true gentleman, skilled and virtuous, remains calm even in tough situations and stays alert during times of joy. He is not intimidated by those in power or those who are arrogant, and he shows empathy towards the elderly who are no longer strong. During the spring and autumn period, the state of Zheng was weak. At that time, there was a prince named Ji Hu, the eldest son of Duke Zheng of Zheng. When Duke Zheng and Duke Huan of Qi met at the Stone Gate, Duke Huan saw Ji Hu and wanted to become his ally by offering his daughter in marriage, but Ji Hu declined, saying, "Qi is a great state, Zheng is small, I dare not reach too high." Duke Zheng advised, "If you marry into Qi, we can rely on them in the future." But Ji Hu replied, "How can a man who is untroubled in adversity and cautious in peace rely on marriage for support?" Duke Zheng praised his son's principles and no longer pressured him. Later, when the northern tribes invaded Qi, Duke Zheng sent Ji Hu with troops to help Qi. Ji Hu cleverly strategized and bravely fought, repelling the invaders. Duke Huan of Qi was very pleased and again proposed the marriage at a celebratory feast, but Ji Hu declined once more. His chief general advised accepting the marriage to secure his position as heir, but Ji Hu stood firm in his refusal. 107. Overflow happens when too full, and breakage happens when too hard. When human power reaches its peak, it's like water about to spill over from a full vessel. At this point, one must avoid adding even a single drop more. In a critical situation, like a tree on the verge of being completely chopped down, one must avoid adding any more force. During the Warring States period, the great general of the state of Chu, Zhao Yang, led his troops to attack the state of Wei. He killed the Wei general, destroyed the enemy's army, and conquered 8 fortresses. Then he moved his army to attack the state of Qi. Tian Shan, serving as an envoy of the king of Qi, met Zhao Yang to congratulate him on his victories and asked, "What rank or reward can be given for defeating an enemy and killing their general?" Zhao Yang replied, "An official is a pillar, a title is a holder of the nation's honor." Tian Shan further inquired, "Is there any position higher than this?" Zhao Yang answered, "Only the position of a governor." Tian Shan said, "Indeed, a governor is a prestigious and honorable position, but the king of Chu cannot appoint 2 governors. Today, General, you have assisted the king of Chu in defeating Wei, destroying their army and capturing their fortresses, and you plan to attack Qi, which frightens the people of Qi. With these achievements, you have already made a name for yourself, and your position cannot be elevated further. Thus, if the attack on Qi fails, it would be a case of not knowing when to stop, which could lead to your downfall, because historically, too much fullness leads to overflow, and too much rigidity leads to breaking." Convinced by these words, Zhao Yang decided to withdraw his troops and return to his country. 108. Forgiveness and Loyalty, the Tale of Duke Mu of Qin. When dealing with others, it's important to be forgiving and overlook their mistakes, seeing them as minor. This helps us live peacefully. However, we should be strict with ourselves. Even if we don't make big mistakes, we can always find areas to improve, which helps us grow morally. During the spring and autumn period in ancient China, Duke Mu of Qin was traveling when his chariot broke down and one of his horses ran away. He followed it to the south of Mount Qi, where he found a group of people cooking the horse for a meal. Duke Mu kindly asked them, "Why eat this fine horse's meat without any wine? I'm worried it might affect your health." He then advised each person to drink some wine before he left. A year later, Duke Mu and Duke Hui of Jin fought a battle at the land of Han. Jin's forces surrounded Duke Mu, but a doctor from Jin quickly secured Duke Mu's horse. Just as Duke Mu was about to be captured, more than 300 people who had eaten his horse's meat courageously fought beside his chariot against Jin's army, ultimately defeating them and capturing Duke Hui of Jin. 109. Wisdom in Adversity, a Tale of Strategic Sacrifice during the Warring States period. Consider loss as gain and restrain your desires. Looking at youthful behaviors through the eyes of the elderly can eliminate the pursuit of fame and fortune. Observing prosperity during decline can break the attachment to seeking luxury and high status. During the Warring States period, the state of Zhao was besieged by the state of Qin. Prince Xin Ling of Wei devised a plan to steal the military talismans of King Wei, leading to the assassination of a Wei general and breaking the siege to protect Zhao. As Zhao prepared to welcome him outside the city, Xin Ling's strategist Tong Xiao advised him, "I've heard it said, if others dislike you, you should be aware. If you dislike others, don't let them know. Never forget the kindness others have shown you, and forget the kindness you have shown others." Xin Ling asked, "What do you mean by this?" Tong Xiao replied, "The ancients believed that one should regard loss as gain. Although you broke the Qin siege and protected Zhao, you betrayed Wei by stealing the talismans and killing the general. Now that the king of Zhao is coming out to meet you, we should go and hope that he will forget your role in saving Zhao." Xin Ling responded, "I will follow your advice." 110. Change is constant. Stay optimistic. Life's indifference can foster warmth and change. You don't need to take everything at face value. King Nia once said, "What I said yesterday has become them today. I wonder who I will be tomorrow." Thinking this way helps people let go of their worries and complications. During the Southern Dynasty, Taji Khan, who was appointed as the chief minister in the state of Tie, had a very easygoing nature. Once, while attending an outdoor feast, his carriage passed by a tavern. He spontaneously jumped off and joined the driver and horse for a drink inside. This unusual scene drew a crowd. People were surprised to see a high official drinking with his driver. However, Taji Khan ignored their reactions and enjoyed his drink as usual. On another occasion at work, he dressed casually in shorts, shirtless, and drank with his students. After getting drunk, he even farted on a nearby soldier, unconcerned about the risk of being dismissed if someone from the court found out. He continued to host guests at his home, enjoying food and drinks to his heart's content. When advised to drink less, he laughed and said, "Life is like a dream. Only wine remains true. How can one drink less?" 111. Forget worldly attachments and embrace the natural order. Fish swim freely in water, but they often forget that it's the water that allows them to swim. Birds glide in the wind, yet they fail to realize it's the wind that supports their flight. Understanding this principle helps one break free from the material world and enjoy spontaneous delights. There's a Buddhist story about a great general who fought bravely on the battlefield, never once feeling fear despite numerous life-threatening situations. However, one day after retiring to his home, he accidentally dropped a valuable vase while admiring it. As the expensive vase fell, he panicked and miraculously caught it, sweating profusely. This made him reflect that although death never scared him, the fear of breaking a tiny vase shook him deeply. He then smashed the vase and decided to renounce worldly life and become a monk. This story illustrates a Buddhist idea that only when one reaches a state of selflessness can one be free from emotional torment and gradually eliminate desires, achieving peace of mind. 112. Truth and deception are just a matter of thought. Everyone has the capacity for great compassion, and there's no real difference between a hermit and a butcher. Between rich and poor households, the genuine feelings are the same everywhere. The only difference lies in how desires and personal feelings often overshadow our compassion and sincerity. What seems like a small gap is, in reality, a vast distance. Zhuang Teach, a writer from the Sui and Tang dynasties, was known for his broad-minded personality and dislike for formalities. He once served as a district official in Luk Hop, but was dismissed because he preferred drinking over working. He lamented, "Everywhere feels confining, better to find peace at home." He then returned to his native Hachu, where he had 16 small fields, a few servants, and his family. They grew rice, brewed their own liquor, raised livestock, and harvested herbs, living self-sufficiently. During this time he met Vu Kuang, a mute hermit who had been living alone in northern Hachu for over 30 years. Vu Kuang was completely self-reliant. Zhuang Teach admired Vu Kuang's sincerity so much that he moved in with him. Despite Vu Kuang's inability to speak, the two shared a deep connection and enjoyed each other's company in silence. Zhuang Teach would say, "I understand all of Vu Kuang's thoughts, so does it really matter that he can't speak?" People often let their desires and personal feelings get in the way, which is why they fail to see the true sincerity of others like Vu Kuang. 113. Being generous and highly knowledgeable leads to increasing virtues daily. A person's morality depends on their development of virtue and talent, which in turn is nurtured by knowledge, leading to broad-mindedness. Therefore, to perfect one's morality, one must cultivate a broad-minded virtue and talent, and to achieve that, one must enrich their own knowledge. A general from the southern dynasty of Liang, Feng Dao Khan, was a man of humble and kind nature, respected for his abilities and greater knowledge. Everyone praised him for his virtues. After battles, while other generals would boast of their achievements to Emperor Xiaoyan of Liang, Feng Dao Khan remained silent, earning some the label of a fool, though he just smiled at such comments. On one occasion, Emperor Xiaoyan pointed out to Minister Shen Yue, "Feng has never boasted about his accomplishments, not because they are lesser, but because his superior knowledge and virtue make him act differently." Shen Yue responded, "He is truly His Majesty's great general." This mirrors the story of Feng Di from the Eastern Han, who, while others discussed their deeds, sat quietly under a large tree, earning the nickname Great Tree General among the troops. 114. Celebrate and worry without letting it cloud your heart. You shouldn't let disappointments or unmet expectations weigh heavy on your heart, nor should you excessively delight in people who bring joy. Don't overly rely on long-term stability, and don't be intimidated by initial difficulties. During the Western Han dynasty, a nephew of Emperor Wu of Han committed murder. According to the laws of the time, the penalty for murder was death. However, the court officials were too afraid to enforce this law and reported the matter to the emperor for a final decision. Emperor Wu said, My sister has passed away and left only this son. But the law was established by my ancestors, and I cannot betray it just for my sister's sake. Otherwise, how could I face my ancestors with honor? He then ordered the execution of his nephew. Emperor Wu was deeply hurt by this decision, and his court officials were also distressed. At that time, a famous scholar named Tong Xiao did not show sorrow, but instead celebrated Emperor Wu's longevity with a toast. This angered Emperor Wu. Tong Xiao quickly apologized, saying, "It is said that too much joy strengthens the positive and too much sorrow harms the negative. Changes in these forces affect the flow of vital energy, and when it's disturbed, it leads to loss of focus and negative influences. To rid oneself of these troubles, alcohol is best. Therefore, I offered a toast to preserve your Majesty's well-being and prevent sorrow." Emperor Wu found his reasoning sound.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
115. Preserving Friendship with Integrity, the story of Duong Tuk and Din Tan Kong. Make friends with a spirit of integrity and be a person with a simple and honest heart. When making friends, one should have a bit of bold and righteous spirit. In dealing with others, keep a bit of genuine affection. Long ago, there was a man named Duong Tuk who was very close friends with Din Tan Kong. Later, Din Tan Kong became a high-ranking officer at court, and Duong Tuk moved away. Their peers found this very strange. Could it be that they were drifting apart? Duong Tuk explained, "I'm doing this to preserve our long-standing friendship. Now that Tan Kong is an officer, I would have to formally salute him each time we meet, which would feel awkward for both of us. If I don't see him, he might suspect why we've drifted apart. If I kept visiting him as before, those who don't understand might think I'm just flattering him for favors. Living farther away, I can visit him occasionally without misunderstandings, and I can maintain my integrity and our friendship without feeling guilty." Duong Tuk always thought of his friend while wisely avoiding the judgment of others. Truly a good friend. 116. Building good virtues can compensate for hardships in life. If fate deals us a shallow hand of blessings, we should enhance our virtues to face it. When life exhausts our body, we must relax our mind and body to compensate. And if we encounter severe difficulties, we should further cultivate our moral values to navigate through them. What else can the heavens do to us then? Quang Heng, from the Western Han Dynasty, came from a family of farmers, but he wanted to pursue education. Since his family had no money, he worked as a laborer during the day to make ends meet and studied at night. Once, while working at a wealthy household that owned many books, Quang Heng didn't ask for payment but requested to borrow some books to read. At night, having no money for a lamp and oil, he drilled a hole in the wall to let the light from a neighbor's lamp shine through and read under this beam of light. Quang Heng tirelessly used this borrowed light to learn, mastering the classic texts and earning great respect from others. Emperor Han Yuan, who admired the classic texts, invited Quang Heng to the palace to help teach him. Trusted by the emperor, Quang Heng was appointed as prime minister and later honored with the title of Marquis of Luan. Coming from a poor background, Quang Heng's dedication to learning eventually led him out of poverty. 117. Knowing when to step back, not competing with the world. Retiring from your career while you are at the peak of success can allow for a perfect ending. Living a quiet life at home without competing or clashing with others can help you genuinely cultivate your character. In 506 BC, the state of Wu attacked the state of Chu, and King Fushai of Wu appointed the famous military leader Sun Wu as the general. Leading 30,000 elite troops, they defeated the Chu forces. Following their victory, they pursued the enemy using the tactic of feigned retreats and sudden strikes, covering 700 miles in 11 days and winning all 5 battles, eventually capturing the Chu capital, Ying. After the Chu king panicked and fled south, Sun Wu continued to demonstrate his exceptional military skills by assisting King Fuchai in defeating the state of Qi at the Battle of Ailing. His victories made the state of Wu renowned, and 2 years later they overthrew the state of Jin, becoming the dominant power. After helping King Fuchai establish his realm, Sun Wu, understanding the principle, when the birds are gone, put away the good bow. When the wise hare dies, the hunting dog is cooked, chose to retire at the height of his power and lived out his days in seclusion in the mountains, dedicating himself to writing and enjoying his old age. 118. Wisdom and wit. Tong Xiao's clever defense at the imperial court. Talking the talk without walking the walk is just empty words. People who often talk about the joys of living in the mountains may not truly understand the pleasure of such a life. Those who claim to despise fame and fortune may not have truly let go of their desire for recognition. A writer from the Western Han Dynasty, Tong Xiao, known for his witty character and love for drinking, chose to work at the court instead of living secluded in the mountains like many hermits of his time. He often said, "People who talk about the joys of living secluded in the mountains may not truly understand its pleasure. Those who say they don't care for fame and fortune may not have really forgotten about it." Thus, he humorously claimed to be a hermit within the imperial court. There was a legend back then that the mountains of Mount Quan had magical wine that could make one immortal. Emperor Wu, upon hearing this, fasted for 7 days and sent a group of young boys and girls to retrieve this wine, and indeed, they found it. However, Tong Xiao secretly drank all of it. Enraged, Emperor Wu ordered his execution. Tong Xiao then argued, "If the wine truly has magical powers, killing me won't work. If it doesn't, then what's the use of the wine?" After pondering this, Emperor Wu laughed and released him. 119. Lessons of Generosity. The Old Man and His 2 Sons. The world feels spacious or cramped based on how we perceive it. People who are always busy feel like time is fleeting, whereas those who are relaxed see time as abundant. Similarly, the world is boundless, but those with a narrow mindset see limits everywhere. Even natural beauties like wind, flowers, snow, and the moon are meant to add enjoyment to our leisure, but ordinary people might view them as excessive. Long ago, an old man had 2 sons. One day he called them and said, "I'm getting old and it's time for you 2 to take care of the family. Today, I'm giving each of you 10 ounces of silver to do a good deed and then return home. The one who shows greater virtue will inherit the family estate." Months later, the sons returned. The eldest said, "I went to the river and saw a woman trying to drown herself. I jumped in and saved her. She was pregnant, so I actually saved 2 lives." The younger son recounted, "I saw our neighbor, who is a skilled martial artist and often bullies us, drunk and asleep next to a cliff. I thought about pushing him off, but then I remembered our country needs brave men like him. So I woke him up instead. Embarrassed, he thanked me and left." The old man laughed heartily after hearing this and chose the younger son to inherit the estate. The elder son was upset, but the old man explained, "Your brother has a generous heart and put aside personal grievances for the greater good of the country and our family. That is a true virtue." 120. A lesson in humility at the end of the party. When a party reaches its peak, it often loses its charm. Friends gather, enjoy singing and dancing, and have a great time together. But once the party's over, all that remains are the dimming candlelights and cold tea. The joy disappears, and looking back, the excitement seems to fade. In this fast-changing world, it's wise to know when to step back and reflect. Once upon a time, there were two brothers who got along very well. The older brother, Lam Te, was calm and modest, not one to show off, and generally a quiet person. The younger brother, Nguyen An, was talkative, energetic, and extroverted. One day, Nguyen An visited Lam Te and proudly shared that he was about to be promoted thanks to a reward from the local authorities. Instead of celebrating, Lam Te responded with a lesson. In the world, there's a type of carp with a bright red tail that loves to show off its fins and swim south. The lucky ones reach a wide river, but the unlucky ones end up in a barrel of salted fish. Essentially, a dead end. When things are going well, we must stay alert and not get too self-satisfied, or we may end up facing severe difficulties. Lam Te's words made Nguyen An feel quite embarrassed. 121. Understanding the intriguing nature of the world and recognizing opportunities before us. Understanding the intriguing aspects of the natural world allows us to embrace the scenic beauty of mountains and lakes everywhere. Knowing the opportunities before us enables heroes of all ages to take control of their destinies. Confucius once admired a waterfall cascading from 30 meters high, creating a frothy river that flowed 40 miles away, a place too turbulent for even turtles and snakes to swim. Suddenly, he spotted a man swimming in the river. Initially thinking the man was seeking death, he sent his disciples to rescue him. But after swimming a few hundred steps, the man emerged, shook his hair, and walked away, singing joyfully. Curious, Confucius followed and asked, "I thought you were a ghost, but you are a man. Do you have a secret to swimming?" The man replied, "No, I have no secret. I started life with human instincts, grew with humanity's ability to adapt, and succeeded by following nature's lead. I dive with the whirlpools and surface with the upswells, going with the flow of the water, not against it. That's how I managed to swim in such a swift current." 122. Everything is an illusion, and the successful must understand this. The mountains and earth compared to the vastness of space are merely a speck of dust, and humans are just a tiny speck within that. Our lives compared to infinite time are as brief as a water droplet and a shadow, and thus external fame and wealth are just like droplets and shadows. This is why, without supreme wisdom, one cannot truly grasp the truth. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, when Emperor Han traveled to the south for inspection, wherever he went, heralds and guards preceded and followed him, showing off their might. When the local people heard that the emperor himself was visiting, they rushed to see him. However, one old man did not bother to come. He continued to work on the banks of the Han River, indifferent, as if he didn't see the emperor at all. His unusual behavior caught the attention of a high official, Zhang On, who instructed his servant, "Go ask that old man digging the earth why everyone else has come to see the emperor, and he has not." The servant did as asked, but the old man just smiled and did not reply. Zhang On, now more curious, went up to the old man to ask himself. The old man said, "Was the emperor appointed because the world was in chaos, or was the world at peace when he was appointed? In the past, sage kings ruled the world and lived simply, using straw for their homes and unadorned wood for their structures, yet the people were content. But today's kings indulge in pleasure and leisure, and the common people suffer. I am truly ashamed for you." Zhang On was deeply embarrassed upon hearing this. 123. The Dream. Within a pillow, a tale of life's fleeting nature. Life is short, so why chase fame and fortune? How much time can we really fight over when our lives are as brief as a flickering oil lamp? Can squabbling in a cramped space like a snail's shell ever help us conquer a vast world? A caretaker at a temple has had a wooden pillow made from cypress for over 30 years, which has a small crack on the back. A local grain merchant named Thang Lam, seeking luck and happiness, visited the temple. The caretaker asked him, "Are you married? If not, you can use this pillow to sleep." While sleeping on it, Thang Lam dreamt that he entered through the crack in the pillow and saw a red door leading to a magnificent palace and grand castle, far surpassing the real world. He met an official named Zhao who helped him get married and have 6 children, 4 sons and 2 daughters. Initially appointed as a minor official, Thang Lam was soon promoted to a higher rank. He lived in the dream within the pillow, forgetting about his home. After fulfilling his desires but facing dissatisfaction, the caretaker called him out, and he saw the cypress pillow as before. The caretaker said, "In this pillow, you experienced many years, but in reality, it was just a brief moment. Life is like a dream, so what's the point of competing for more, seeking fame, or gaining benefits?" 124. Mindset and Moderation. Tales of Perception and Responsibility from the Western Han Dynasty. Whether something feels spacious or cramped, long or short, it all depends on one's mindset. Length and width are subjective experiences, influenced by our mental state. Therefore, for someone with a relaxed mind, a day can feel longer than eternity, and for someone with an open heart, even a small room can feel incredibly spacious. Tao Tom, a famous minister from the early Western Han Dynasty, loved drinking. He would drink day and night, often getting completely drunk. The officials and guests, from high-ranking bureaucrats to ordinary visitors, were worried because he drank daily and neglected his duties. They all wanted to advise him, but every time they tried to talk to him, he would start a drinking party and they would end up too drunk to speak. Emperor Hui was also displeased with Tao Tom's constant drunkenness and neglect of state affairs. One day, Emperor Hui asked Tao Tom's son to consult his father on how to handle the empire's major affairs. Angered by the question, Tao Tom beat his son and then instructed him to tell the emperor. The founding emperors established clear laws to stabilize the world. We just need to follow these laws. By doing nothing, the world will maintain its peace. 125. Being honest and content helps keep trouble away. People who rely on power often face the worst and quickest disasters. Living a calm and simple life may seem ordinary, but it lasts the longest. During the spring and autumn period, a man named Tang Tam wore tattered clothes and worked in agriculture. The king of the state of Lo sent someone to offer him a fortress and told him, "Please use the income from this fortress to buy some new clothes for yourself." Tang Tam declined. Despite several offers from the king, he consistently refused. The king's messenger asked, "You didn't ask for it. It was given to you, so why refuse it?" Tang Tam replied, "I've heard that accepting gifts from others makes one fearful of them, and giving makes the giver arrogant towards others. Even if you aren't arrogant towards me, how could I not be fearful?" When Confucius heard this story, he said, "Tang Tam's words are enough to preserve his integrity." 126. Cultivating a resilient character. To remain calm and composed during busy times, it's important to train your mind to be alert and sharp during moments of relaxation. If you wish to face death without fear, then you must deeply and thoroughly understand human life during normal times. In the Qing dynasty, there was a stubborn scholar named Li Fu who served as a governor during the reign of Emperor Yongzheng. When Li Fu was patrolling in Henan, he sternly questioned the local official, Dian Wenjing, for disrespecting and insulting educated people. Dian Wenjing was a deceitful and favored official, so Li Fu confronted him directly, leaving no room for evasion. This led to Dian harboring resentment and plotting against Li Fu with other high officials, aiming to bring about his downfall. Although Emperor Yongzheng appreciated Li Fu's talents, he was not pleased with his stubbornness and wanted him to suffer and change his ways. Therefore, the emperor twice sentenced Li Fu to death. Li Fu was arrested, bound, and taken to the execution ground. The executioner placed a knife on his neck and asked, "Do you now recognize Dian Wenjing's goodness?" Li Fu, unchanging in expression and demeanor, replied, "I am foolish, but even in death I do not see where Wenjing's goodness lies." Emperor Yongzheng, unable to diminish Li Fu's integrity and resilience, and unwilling to execute a righteous official, ultimately released him.
If you like this video, please comment 1. And if you don't, comment 2. Your feedback means a lot to us. Thank you for your valuable time.
127. Living in seclusion removes both honor and disgrace. Adherence to moral principles does not change with the times. For those who choose to live secluded in the mountains, the triumphs and failures of human life can be forgotten. Those who pursue morality do not need to concern themselves with the fickle attitudes and cold indifference that the world often shows. Tong Bohu, one of the 4 great talents of Jiangnan from the Ming dynasty, was highly talented. His poetry and prose were outstanding, and he was also skilled in calligraphy and painting. His literary style was famously unique in Jiangnan. In the 11th year of the Hongzhi era, Tong Bohu excelled in the local examinations, topping the list, and was hence honored by his villagers as Tong Jiayuan. Despite his poor family background and the many visitors he hosted, Tang Bohu faced severe trials when falsely accused and imprisoned. After enduring much hardship, he was ultimately rescued by a friend. This experience led him to see the true nature of societal indifference, and eventually made him decide to withdraw from the pursuit of worldly recognition and the harshness of human relations, turning to Buddhism for solace. In his later years, he seldom went out, mostly sitting in a small loft. He only indulged in drinking when someone brought wine to commission his art. 128. Removing worries for peace of mind and body. You don't have to get rid of your own impatience, but, if needed, remove the worries it causes to maintain a peaceful mind. You don't need special methods to change extreme hardship, but if needed, remove the sorrow it brings to keep your heart content. Qian Tran Quan, a scholar during the Qing dynasty, grew up in poverty. In the cold winters, he would wake up early to study and had to wash his face at the well, which left his skin dry and cracked. He studied under extremely tough conditions. Qian lived in the capital for a few years, then returned to his hometown of Nanlu to teach his 2 younger brothers. Living in a loft and focusing solely on his studies, he asked others to remove the ladder using only a rope to haul up his meals. He only came down once at the end of the year, yet he didn't feel any misery. He said, "Although the empty loft is cold and lonely, it is a good place to live. Heat and cold, though harsh, are great motivators." By not worrying about his poverty and letting go of worldly concerns, he eventually became a learned and wise man. 129. Greed leads to poverty. Contentment brings joy. People who are endlessly greedy are never satisfied. Even if they receive gold and silver, they still envy those with beautiful jewels. If they are appointed as dukes, they still resent not being made princes. Clearly, Even the wealthy often feel a lack of fulfillment. On the other hand, those who know when enough is enough generally live happily. They find wild vegetables tastier than fish and meat, and cloth clothing warmer than luxurious fur. Even as ordinary people, they live a more self-satisfied and free life than nobles. In history, there was a man named An Dongba, who was the deputy governor of Jianzhou. He was very greedy and was never satisfied with the bribes he received. In Jianzhou, there was an oil merchant named Mr. Trin, who was very wealthy and also good at playing chess. And Dongba wanted Mr. Trin to bribe him with some money, so he invited him to play chess at his office, but only allowed Mr. Trin to stand while playing. Each move Mr. Trin made, he had to step back to the window and wait for An Dongba to think before continuing the game. As a result, they barely made a few moves the entire day. Mr. Trin was both tired and hungry, nearly unable to bear it anymore. The next day he was called again to play chess with An Dongba. While he was greatly frustrated, someone secretly advised him, "The deputy governor doesn't really want to play chess. He just wants to get some money from you. Why don't you just bribe him?" So, Mr. Trin decided to give the deputy governor 3 trays of gold, and indeed, An Dongba accepted the gold and did not ask him to serve as his opponent anymore. 130. Seeking Virtue, a Tale of Attachment and Integrity. 1. If your heart still yearns for something, you won't find paradise. Living in the mountains can be exciting, but if you become too attached to that life, it loses its charm and becomes as mundane as city living. Appreciating art and literature is noble, but if you're driven by greed or obsession, it's no different than being a mere merchant. Therefore, with a pure and untainted heart, even in an environment filled with temptations, you can experience a heavenly existence. But if your heart is full of longing, even the most joyful surroundings can feel like a pit of despair. 2. Wang Minzheng, a famous historian during the Qing dynasty, once stayed with a wealthy family. Every time he entered their home, he would pretend to hug something with both arms. When people asked him why, he said he wanted to embrace all the wealth of the house in his arms. After becoming a high-ranking official, he often misused public funds. Someone once warned him, "You are educated and wealthy, yet why are you so greedy and stingy? Aren't you worried about damaging your reputation?" Wang Minzheng had an answer ready. He said, "Being called greedy is only a temporary embarrassment. My scholarly work will last forever. Criticisms will fade away, but my writings and moral teachings will endure." Despite his bold words, Wang Minzheng didn't truly believe in them, and his actions were merely a cover for his corrupt behavior. 131. Simplicity beats extravagance. Subtle is better than bold. In the elite circles of influential officials, the presence of a sage with a wooden staff living secluded in the mountains adds an air of refinement. Conversely, seeing a high-ranking official in formal court dress on a common fishing pier brings a rather vulgar vibe. Thus, it's said that being understated is preferable to being overt, and vulgarity cannot compare to sophistication. During the Tang dynasty, a scholar named Dong Ngok traveled to the capital to take the imperial examination. When he arrived at the exam hall, he was shocked to see the supervisor acting arrogantly, inspecting everyone who came to take the test. Curious, Dong Ngok quietly asked a fellow examinee next to him, who explained, "They're afraid we might bring in cheat sheets." Dong Ngok became very angry. Treating scholars like common thieves, how despicable. He then turned, brushed off his sleeves, and left. Returning to his study, Dong Ngok spread out his paper and ink and passionately drew a plum branch standing resilient against the winter wind. He composed a poem. You can try to cage me with circles to the left and right, but you cannot hold me. How many have you trapped? And yet today, I leap out of these circles lest I be trapped into old age by them." His fellow poets praised him for not conforming to the muddled norms and not bowing his head. His work powerfully moved viewers, inspiring them to rise above the murky mainstream and maintain their noble character. Hence, his painting became widely celebrated. 132. Living in ease, heart in peace. Keeping oneself in a relaxed environment shields us from the world's judgments of honor or disgrace. Maintaining a calm mind prevents worldly concerns from blinding us. During the Eastern Han Dynasty, Wang Ba was a hermit known for his noble character, and Linghu Tuziba from the same district was his close friend. Later, Linghu Tuziba became the prime minister of the state of Su, and his son was appointed as a high-ranking official. Linghu Tuziba sent his son to deliver a letter to Wang Ba. The son arrived in a carriage with attendants, exuding an air of relaxed dignity. Wang Ba's son, seeing this, didn't dare to look up. After the visit, Wang Ba remained in bed, overwhelmed. His wife, puzzled, asked what was wrong. Wang Ba replied, "Linghu Tuziba and I were always close. Just now, his son looked so dignified and well-mannered while our son was unkempt, missing teeth, and didn't know how to behave. I felt embarrassed for him." His wife responded, "You have always valued integrity over wealth and honor since you were young. Why feel ashamed for your son now?" Realizing she was right, Wang Ba sat up and laughed, saying, "You are absolutely right." 133. The unyielding integrity of Nan Chao Kan in the face of rebellion. I don't seek fame or fear power. Why should I worry about the temptations of status and wealth if I don't pursue them? Why fear the hidden risks of government positions if I don't desire to climb the ranks? Nan Chao Kan, a renowned official from the Tang dynasty, was just and sharp-witted. Although criticized by a vice-governor, he remained steadfast in his principles and was praised by his contemporaries. During the Tianbao era of the Tang dynasty, the regional commander, An Laksan, rebelled against the court, proclaiming, "Punish Yang Guozhong." Knowing Nan Chao Kan was talented, An Laksan appointed him as a prefect to win him over. Though Nan outwardly complied, he secretly organized troops against the rebellion. After his defeat, he was brought to Luoyang, where An Laksan angrily demanded, "I made you a prefect. Why would you betray me?" Nan Chao Kan glared and retorted, "You are a mere slave. My family has always been loyal to the Tang dynasty. How could I be seduced by high positions and riches and betray my heart? Now, I only regret not killing you to repay the emperor." Furious, An Laksan ordered Nan to be tied to a pillar in the south of the city, had him cut up, and forced him to eat his own flesh. Nan Chao Kan cursed him continuously and eventually died from being mutilated. 134. The Rise and Fall of Su Weidao, a tale of ambition and indifference in the Tang dynasty. Come and go as you please, freely and at ease. Your body should be like a small boat that's not tied by any ropes, allowed to drift or stop. Your spirit should be like wood turned to charcoal, unafraid of being chopped or smeared with fragrance, feeling no pain or irritation. During the reign of Emperor Gaozong of the Tang dynasty, there was a scholar named Su Weidao. After passing the imperial examination as a doctorate, he was appointed as a local official. In 684, Empress Wu Zetian deposed Emperor Zhongzong and reformed the central government. In this reform, Su Weidao, originally a low-ranking county magistrate, was promoted to a high official position, which made him admired by everyone. However, his good fortune did not last long. Shortly after becoming a secretary at the Imperial Academy, he was accused and imprisoned. Thus he lost his former prestige and was subjected to torture. One day, Empress Wu visited the prison and saw Su Weidao looking frail and squatting on the ground eating his meal, which moved her to pity. She ordered his release out of compassion. Su Weidao was freed and restored to his former position, an event both astonishing and fortunate. However, the internal court conflicts and factional struggles meant his life did not go as he wished, and before long he was demoted again and sent elsewhere. In these conflicts, Su Weidao's fortunes rose and fell, leaving him indifferent to worldly matters. His life of ups and downs caused him to lose his scholarly aura, yet he couldn't sever his ties with the perks of high office and live freely like the hermits. 135. Desire leads to impatience, while a clear mind brings calmness. People full of desire, even in cold, deep waters, stir up storms and cannot find peace even in the quietest of mountains. However, those without such cravings remain cool even in the sweltering heat of summer and find silence amidst the noise of a busy market. During the Qing dynasty, there was a famous scholar named Nguyen who once visited Bin Duong Mountain. The local official there was a greedy man. When Nguyen arrived, the official was writing invitations and, mistaking Nguyen for a simple villager because of his plain clothes and straw shoes, he disrespectfully muttered, "Sit, tea," without paying much attention. After finishing his writing, the official inquired about Nguyen's surname. Upon realizing who Nguyen was, he quickly became respectful and offered him a proper seat and good tea. Once seated, the official asked for Nguyen's full name, and upon confirming his identity, he hurriedly dusted off a chair, asked Nguyen to sit in a place of honor, and served fine tea, treating him with great respect. Later, he even asked Nguyen to write something. Hesitant at first, Nguyen then wrote humorously about the situation. Sit, please sit above. Tea, brew good tea. With this couplet, Nguyen cleverly mocked the official's opportunistic behavior. 136. Those who are rich have many worries, and those with high status face many dangers. People with a lot of wealth experience great loss when they lose it, so the wealthy often live with more worries than the poor. Those with high status feel more pain when they fall, making their lives less peaceful than those of humbler means. Mencius, originally named Dai, was a philosopher from the late spring and autumn period to the early Warring States period. He founded the school of Mohism. Coming from a humble background, he once worked as a craftsman and referred to himself as a commoner. Initially, he studied Confucianism but later became dissatisfied with its meticulous rituals, leading him to start his own philosophical school. Mencius deeply understood the tragic lives of the working people and strongly opposed the notion that the rich could demean the poor and the noble could scorn the humble. He advocated for mutual love and reciprocal benefit. Those with strength should help others, those with wealth should share, and those with morals should teach those without. He believed this approach would ensure that the hungry are fed, the cold are clothed, the tired can rest, and chaos is managed. From his principle of inclusive love, he advocated for non-aggression, opposing unjust wars where the powerful oppress the weak. Mencius also promoted frugal living and opposed luxurious and indulgent lifestyles among the ruling classes. He and his students wore grass shoes, ate simple meals, and drank coarse tea, avoiding lavish lifestyles. His philosophy of living simply and valuing humanity has always been an example for the rich and a comfort to the poor.
Hey everyone, your comments truly matter, offering insights and motivation to others and uplifting our creative team at Lighthouse of Wisdom channel. Sharing your thoughts and experiences enriches our community. So, let's get the conversation started below and help illuminate our path with your wisdom.